I always like to end on a positive note, so here is a rousing, uplifting song which is guaranteed to cheer you up. When you attend a funeral, it is sad to think that sooner or later those you love will do the same for you. And you may have thought it tragic, not to mention other adjectives, to think of all the weeping they will do. But don't you worry, no more ashes, no more sackcloth, and an armband made of black cloth will someday nevermore adorn a sleeve. For if the bomb that drops on you gets your friends and neighbors too, there'll be nobody left behind to grieve, and we will all go together when we go. What a comforting fact that is to know. Universal bereavement, an inspiring achievement. Yes, we all will go together when we go. We will all go together when we go, all suffused with an incandescent glow. No one will have the endurance to collect on his insurance. Lloyds of London will be loaded when they go. We will all fry together when we fry. We'll be French fried potatoes by and by. There will be no more misery when the world is our rotisserie. Yes, we all will fry together when we fry. We will all bake together when we bake. There'll be nobody present at the wake. With complete participation in that grand incineration, nearly 3 billion hunks of well-done steak. We will all char together when we char, and let there be no moaning of the bar. Just sing out a Te Deum when you see that ICBM, and the party will be come as you are. We will all burn together when we burn. There'll be no need to stand and wait your turn. When it's time for the fallout and St. Peter calls us all out, we'll just drop our agendas and adjourn. We will all go together when we go.
I'm vibing!
Every Hottentot and every Eskimo. When the air becomes Uranus, we will all go simultaneous. Yes, we all will go together when we all go together. Yes, we all will go together when we go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you here again. Today, we have some things to talk about. As I'm sure you can tell by my voice, I feel a wee bit of sickness coming on. Don't know what accent that was. So we're going to go until I basically am dying, and then we'll call it. Fair? Fair? Okay. So we have some funny things to look at. One of the most hilarious cell phones self-own I've seen in a while. Some information about an upcoming Rockstar project. I want to, if we have time, to look at the Horizon remaster thing and see if that actually looks better. And of course, we're going to talk about Dragon Age and all of that good stuff. But first of all, how the heck are you guys? Have you been, well, you know what? We can do a poll. We can do a poll. We have the technology. Straw poll. For those of you who are very, very observant, you might also notice the LED fans are working in the computer today. That is because that's not the same computer. I actually was able to replace everything. Can I swap the camera? Can I show you? Hold on. Let me fix the wire. Okay, let's see if this worked. Boop. Nope, it didn't. Okay, hold on. Deactivate, react. Hey, there it is. All of that stuff. You see all that stuff? That is all the boxes and stuff for our replacement PC. People were asking why I had to swap stuff out. It's a long and storied tale. The previous PC was part of a sponsorship integration we did. And those guys at Apex Gaming PCs are great. Like, you know, they're fantastic. But we started having some problems where basically I was going to need to do a fresh, like, Windows, reinstall. And I was having some problems because, for whatever reason, that motherboard just doesn't work with more RAM than 32 gigs. And because I'm a diva, I need more than 32 gigs of RAM, especially when I'm trying to, like, convert videos and capture and stuff. You kind of need a lot of RAM. So I swapped a bunch of stuff out, and now we have what's known as overkill. It's got a 7950X processor. It has 128 gigs of RAM. It still has the 4090. It's the same one as before. It's just been moved over. And for video game installs, I have two 4TB NVMe SSDs striped together so we can have everything ever installed all the time. So overkill, yes. But I mean, what else? Like, why not? Why not? It's funny because now I get the pop-up and Chrome is like, do you want to turn on memory saver mode where we put certain tabs to sleep to save RAM? And I'm like, no, I don't need to save RAM. Sure don't. And as part of this, you know, I was able to kind of mentally justify, I mean, like, just look at that. Doesn't that just look sexy? Just look at that monstrosity. Look at all that. And then this, we have two 4TB drives for our game storage. Like, oh, ain't it sexy? Ain't it sexy? The other thing is, I wanted to avoid like a Vosh situation where I accidentally show you guys all the pictures I have of horses and stuff. So I have a separate profile on the computer now for streaming and videos and stuff. So there's no potential crossover between my personal stuff and the stream stuff. Not that I have anything that I would consider to be like bad, but I guess sometimes I might have like my email pulled up, like business email on my personal account. So if I flash that accidentally, that maybe could be bad. But, you know, I don't really have things to hide. But I'm sure some of those people thought the same thing until they accidentally showed a private folder of some stuff. Yeah, NDA stuff. Yeah. Whoa. Quote. Gosh. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's gonna work. We'll see how it flows, and if I realize I'm missing a lot of stuff as we go through this, but we got that done. Had a little heart attack though, because I could not get it to post for the life of me. Updated the BIOS, did all that stuff, and apparently installing Windows 11 for Windows 11 instead of 10, like Windows 11 will just have this thing where it just takes 4 hours to install, and it'll just sit on a black screen for ages. And then when you finally get it to install and you're trying to do the initial setup, it's like, oh, you need an internet connection. Even though you have it hardwired in to the Ethernet, it's like, we need an internet connection. You don't have one. But you can't, even if you have a wireless adapter like built into the motherboard, it doesn't think that you do. So it just refuses to connect to the internet, so you can't set it up. So I had to dig through Reddit, but I found one guy who was like, oh, you do like Control-Shift-F10. It pulls up the command line. You enter this big string of commands, and then it overrides that requirement, and then you can install Windows normally. I was like, don't you love PC gaming? Don't you just love PC gaming? Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Oh, living the dream. It's the same thing. Like, have any of you guys been trying the Monster Hunter beta on PC? Have any of you guys tried it? I had a problem where I could not get the damn thing to boot. You'd press play and it just doesn't play. Just doesn't work. And I was like, I'm going crazy. Like, what is the problem? And I looked it up on Reddit, and a bunch of people were having the same problem. Apparently there was a Windows update that makes it so the like crash reporter doesn't work. So the fix for me was going into the install folder for the Monster Hunter beta and just deleting the crash reporter and then crash reporter DLL. You delete it and then it boots fine. I don't know why that fixed it, but it did. Now it runs great. So, PC gaming, there certainly are some headaches. There's some weird stuff, but when it works, it's great. You just have to be willing to Google some stuff and look it up on Reddit, Just got to get through that. So. Oh, man. I played Dragon Age today, and I had the first hard crash computer off in the last 10 years, and it freaked me out. Oh, really? Sounds like someone has not been playing enough Starfield, my friend. Yeah, sounds like you need to do that. Sounds like you're out of the loop. Because I'm very used to it at this point, honestly. Thank you for that. Hope you had a fun Halloween. Wish me luck. I'm gonna start to play The Last of Us Part 2. Fun fact: Jesus loves Luke Simmons live streams. I hadn't heard that, but I believe it. It makes sense, especially considering we do so many offensive things like creating candles for our patron saints of gaming, but that's a separate thing. Jesus likes to troll a little bit. He likes to troll. Let's see what else was there. And yeah, I had a good Halloween. Went trick-or-treating with the boys, and it was too bad. Nikki was in rehearsal for a show she's doing, so it was just me trick-or-treating with Ori and Lachlan, but we had a great time. It was very cute. After a little while, Lockie was like, I need to do it myself. Even though he's only 3, he was like, I need to do it. And so he had me stay at the bottom of the stairs, like at the driveway of the person's house. And he went up the stairs and he knocked on the door all by himself. Trick or treat. He got his candy and he kept going. I was like, okay, my little boy's grown up. It was very cute. It's very cute. Ori just was dressed like a monkey and he just chilled in the stroller the whole time. He has a little bucket and he'd get candy from the people and then he'd reach and grab it, look at it very carefully, and then put it back in and then grab a different one. And that's all he did for like 2 hours. It was great. Luke has a child. Yeah, I got 2, bro. I'm a daddy-o to 2 little fellas. It's awesome. Did any kids come to your door? No, we were trick-or-treating at my mom's house, so we weren't here. Most people, like in the city where I live, most people leave their neighborhoods and go to the like old town area where businesses do like more elaborate stuff. So for whatever reason in my city, it's like trick-or-treating through the neighborhood is not a super common thing, but where my mom lives, it's a much more common thing. So we just went over there. Anyway, my neighborhood was like an old school block party. It was awesome. Oh, really? Oh, that's great. I love that. I remember when I lived in Texas, I was 13, 14, something like that. But I remember like we were in McKinney, Texas, and we had block parties all the time. It was super common. Barbecue block parties. We'd do like the HOA would come in and we'd get big bounce houses. And I remember it was so freaking cool. It was so cool. But here in Colorado, I don't know why it's not that common of a thing. People kind of stay pretty isolated. Like they don't, neighborliness is not a super big thing here for whatever reason. HOA Luke was always rich. I remember like this was I think, when would it have been? Like my dad back in the day, he still is fairly successful. He recently got laid off, still looking for work, but I remember growing up, he was doing pretty well. I'm one of 10 kids, so like the money was spread pretty thin. So, he was making good money, but with 10 kids, it maybe didn't feel as much like really good money. But yeah, 10 kids and no, like not Catholic, not Mormon. Yeah, but I'm one of 10. But I remember like they built a new house in Texas in like 2004, and they had the HOA and everything like that, and we moved away a few years after that, maybe 2006 or 2007. And then we ended up coming back to the house. They tried to use it as a rental for like 4 or 5 years while we lived in Minnesota and then moved to Colorado. And then we moved back to Texas because that house they built in 2004, they tried to use it as a rental, but then they ended up with people like kind of squatting in it. Like they were renting it, but then they stopped paying rent. And then they moved their like elderly family members into the house with their hospital beds and stuff, to try and convince the sheriff's department to not evict them. And so it was this whole like traumatic thing. And then when we finally got there after the sheriff's office, whatever, got everybody out and evicted everybody because they hadn't paid rent in like a year. We had just moved down from Colorado back down to Texas. And I remember going into the house and it reeked. And it's because those people, they had like 4 dogs and they would just lock them into one of the upstairs bedrooms for like days at a time. And so all the stuff that comes with that had seeped into the floor, into the walls. Like it was horrifying. It was pretty horrifying. And so like, I remember them trying to fix it up and replace the floors and everything. It was pretty awful. It was pretty awful. But like I used to work in real estate, as you guys know, and we saw that all the time in apartment buildings too. People that would lock their dogs into closets and just leave them there for like days on end. And it's like, why do you have a dog? Why did you get the dog if you're not going to take like the most basic care of it? But unfortunately, it's like a really common thing, especially in some of those like really crappy apartment buildings. Like I told you, like those apartment buildings going viral for like being taken over by Venezuelan gangs in Aurora. Like my company sold a couple of those, or a few of those. They were all owned by one guy that was like a well-known slumlord. And so like I know those buildings quite well. You know, there was one of them, the one that looked like a prison yard that we looked at on stream. It had like a broken elevator in it, and he just refused to fix the elevator, even though it was like partially suspended. So like it straight up could just fall, collapse, and kill people. But he was like, it's fine. We do not need to change. It was like kind of insane. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, going back to all of this stuff. I was going to ask you how many of you guys were playing Dragon Age versus the Monster Hunter beta or something else, but then we got distracted and I don't remember how, so we're just gonna move on. Have we fired up Ubisoft's latest NFT game yet? I showed that to Joe Raptor like after the podcast. I showed him, like, we booted it up. I'll try booting it up right now. And I did it for him too. It just crashes automatically. You can't play it. It's amazing. It's amazing how they managed to screw it up to that degree. Like they spent millions and millions of dollars on this. Oh, there's a bug. Damn you. And it won't boot. Like they have, no joke, they have $64,000 microtransaction NFTs in that game, and you can't boot it. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Oh, never say I don't try these things. Like people might be like, oh, Luke just likes to rage, but how many other people actually installed the NFT game and tried to play it? No one. I'm the sucker that does that. And I couldn't even get it to play. So anyway, I guess I should call out this first. I don't think this is even like a full segment, but I do want to call attention to it. People during the last stream were trying to bring this up, like towards the end of the stream, because Grums posted it, and whatever you think of Grums, this is the most brain dead thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay, whether you generally agree with him or not. He posted this saying, leak, BioWare and EA caught red-handed. Mr. Matty Plays agreement supposedly leaked. It wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was true. Return to form, a required phrase. In case you're not familiar, this is because people were saying a lot of the reviews had like BioWare's return to form. They're back, BioWare's back. They used a lot of these same terms. Setting aside the fact that like it's just a common English turn of phrase to say like somebody that's been screwing up for a long time, not screwing up now, they've returned to form. Ignore that. It's part of a conspiracy. They say, ooh, all of this, it confirms everything. If this is true, there is so much more here. You cannot talk about woke. This is access journalism. This is bullcrap, and we have to tear the corrupt system all down. The blacklisted terms are crazy. Feminism. They can push DEI on you, but you are not allowed to talk about it or admit it's happening. Follow my other thread as we dissect if this is real or not. This is the most hilariously fake thing I've ever seen in my life. You want to know why? Well, think about this for half a second. Number one, literally the first line. The dumbass that wrote this forgot to get rid of the cursor in the Word document when they were writing it. They left the cursor blinking and screen capped it because they were actively like typing it up when they were writing it. They forgot to get rid of the cursor. Beyond that, it gets stupider. Beyond that, this is allegedly a legal document from BioWare, which is based in San Francisco. I don't know many companies that misspell the name of their own city where they're housed. They misspelled Francisco after allegedly being based there. There's inconsistent formatting all over the place with certain things capitalized, other things not capitalized. Racial positivity is not capitalized, but surgical stars, the first word, okay. There's other things in here. This includes comparisons to 2018's PlayStation 4 title God of War or its sequels or spin-offs. I hate to be that guy. God of War 2018 has had one sequel, Ragnarok. God of War 2018 has. Not sequels. Anything that came before it would have been not a sequel, but like technically a prequel. So there's that. It also has not had any spin-offs. Whoever wrote this, like, for one, this isn't what an NDA looks like. I hate to be that guy too. I've signed a lot. I've had people sign these things. In light of all the like Mr. Matty Plays gameplay leak stuff, we have lots of NDAs that people even on my team sign. And I've signed many of them myself. This is not what an NDA looks like. I've never seen this. Maybe for part of like a sponsorship deal, they might ask you to like not use racist language or something. Like I've seen that where I've done sponsorships and they're like, hey, please don't show violent video. Please don't use obscene language. Please no nudity. Like they'll describe that stuff for sponsorships. But for reviews, I've never, ever seen anything like this to limit any of this. And what's really disgusting about it is that, like, in South Park, when Cartman is making fun of Alex Jones in that, or it was Glenn Beck. It was Glenn Beck, where he's like, I'm not saying that Wendy Testerberger likes to kill Smurfs and drink the blood of Smurf babies. I'm just asking the question. That's the exact same thing as this. I'm not saying this is real. I'm just saying it could be, and I'm asking the question of whether it is real or not. That's the level of like intellectual integrity that we're dealing with right here, okay? And what's really gross about it is that they tried to tie Colin Moriarty in and Mr. Matty Plays into this. They tried to tie them into it for, I guess, increased credibility, but they are accusing them of one of the most egregious breaches of trust with an audience ever. Like, they're accusing them of pretty horrifying things, if true. because this would be illegal in most countries I know of. The FTC would not allow you to sign something like this and put a video up pretending it's a legit review when you already agreed. Like, they are claiming in this article, or in this document, that the recipient of this review program will agree to mention that Dragon Age the Veilguard sees a return to form. That's not how reviews work. And the FTC doesn't let you just say that. You can't pay somebody to review something in a certain way. It's not allowed. So, like, this is straight up libel, in my opinion. Pretending that, oh, I'm just asking questions. That doesn't just get you out of it. I don't understand how you could do this. So, inevitably, people called this out. People, Maddie and Colin both came forward and were like, hey, this isn't real. This is not accurate, and it's one of the most hilariously fake things ever. I don't think Grums wrote this. I think he found it on 4chan or something and then reposted it without thinking about it. I think this is so hilariously fake, somebody was trying to troll Grums with it, because, like, he missed the most obvious basic things. Misspelling San Francisco, like leaving the cursor on, mentioning sequels and spinoffs that don't exist. I'm not even sure if he read this before he retweeted and posted it everywhere, calling into question the journalistic integrity of, like, Colin Moriarty. It's unbelievable. And again, whether or not you agree with Grums on the culture war issue is sort of beside the point. Attaching yourself to somebody who's willing to accept this type of thing as possible evidence should make you really question the mental faculties that we're dealing with, okay? Even if he has arrived, in your opinion, at the correct conclusion with this stuff, if this is what he's willing to tolerate, that's worrisome. Did he delete it? No, he says he's kept it up because he wants to acknowledge his mistakes or whatever. More than anything, like, the internet lives forever. You can't really get rid of it at this point. But the point of all of it is that there's also been other cases with, like, AC Shadows, where there's people that have claimed to be professors, Japanese professors, who are later found out to be, like, middle-aged white dudes in literal Idaho that have just been pretending to be Japanese professors to claim that Ubisoft is being racist with Yasuke and stuff like that. Again, am I thrilled about the choice to have Yasuke as the protagonist instead of, like, a Jin Sakai type character? No, I think they should have gone with, like, a Jin Sakai type character. I think choosing Yasuke was just, like, we all know what they were doing, you know? But again, there's the reason people have a problem with, like, grifter types that are latching on to, like, rage bait stuff just for the sake of rage bait and engagement is because it does damage to the industry. This post is an attempt to call into question everybody who reviewed the game, everybody who was just honestly, like, trying to accurately report their perspectives and opinions on the game, and is effectively calling them all liars, but hiding behind the very cowardly, I'm just asking questions. I didn't say it was real. I thought maybe it is. It's supposedly real. And if you're attaching yourself to those people, like, really reflect, okay? Like, really reflect, because this is insane. This is the fakest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it's like hilariously so. I really, really think whoever made this was trying to troll Grums with it. Be like, no way he actually believes this. And then he actually does. Like, what was... I was watching a documentary on, like, a true crime case. Which one was it? Was it... I think it was part of the Richard Jewell case. Do you guys remember? They did a movie with it. Richard Jewell. He ended up being a hero. There was an attempted bombing at a Olympic event, and Richard Jewell found the bomb and got everybody away from it and saved countless lives. But the FBI was like, no, you did it. And so they tried to basically ruin this guy's life. And he was an actual hero. And they basically ruined his life for like 3-4 months just because they hopped on like the bandwagon that he was somebody that really wanted to be a hero. And so they tried to tear him apart. They did a movie on it, I think directed by Clint Eastwood. And it's the same actor from I, Tonya that did it. Phenomenal movie. Fantastic. But as part of it, I remember one of the detectives, I think it was part of this documentary. They were saying that they put out something about like a 6-fingered man just to see how long it would take to hit the press because they were so like crazy toxic with it. And it took a couple days before the rumors of a 6-fingered man being involved in the media, you know? And it's just because when people have a narrative they really want to chase, they're willing to latch on to anything, even if there's no credibility to it, even if there's nothing there. They're willing to latch onto it to further their own preconceived conclusion. And I think for a lot of people, this has sort of been a wake-up call because they're like, wait, if Grums was willing to tolerate this as evidence, what other stuff has he been using for evidence that we've not caught on as being fake, you know? So I just encourage you to self-reflect and maybe be like, is this guy really trustworthy? If he thought that was real, his standards of evidence are pretty low. That's all I'm saying. Paul Tassi, whether you love him or not, posted something very, very funny, though. Have seen a clearly fake Dragon Age review document going around, so I thought I would set the record straight with the real one. EA BioWare legal document. Dragon Age the Veilguard review contract. The undersigned outlet or reviewer name agrees to the following terms for receiving a review code for Dragon Age the Veilguard. This document is not to be shared or tweeted. Breaking of this agreement will result in refusal of future codes for or up to 5 years in prison. We all know this is a great game. We know this is a great game, and it should be reviewed as such. In accordance with that statement of your fact, your review must include the phrases, BioWare is back, baby. This dragon has aged well, and Baldur's who? Exact phrasing must be used. As part of our Creator Cabal program, you are eligible for these reward tiers. A 10 out of 10 score, $800, and a Dragon Age desk chair. 9 out of 10 score, $300, and a Garrus Vicarian mousepad. 8 out of 10, $50, and an Anthem keychain. 1 through 7, $200 fine, and industry blacklist. Do not mention Baldur's Gate 3. Do not make comparisons to past Dragon Age games unless positive. Do not mention any similarities to Mass Effect unless positive. Do not wait until Skillet publishes his video to form your opinion. Do not mention Baldur's Gate 3. We know Dragon Age the Veilguard deals with many hot-button cultural issues. In order to maintain an atmosphere of safety and trust, please do not use the words or phrases bio-woke, wokeware, electronic woke, woketronic arts, dragon woke, woke age, Dragon Age the Woke Guard. YouTube thumbnails for review coverage may only contain excited or happy creator faces. Crying, confused, or disappointed faces are prohibited. Green arrows are encouraged. Red X's are disallowed. I, the named party, understand these terms and will abide under penalty of death. I mean, it's pretty hilarious. But this is like 50% of this is what people actually allege is going on in the industry behind the scenes. Like, there are people that think there are payouts based on what you give a game's review score. And when you see it written out like this, it's so hilariously stupid that you're like, this is hilarious. But this is why I'm always like, play it through, okay? If you think people are getting paid for review scores, play it through. You're saying that they got a document like this? They think, they force them to use certain phrases and that they get paid for better scores and they can't compare it to other stuff. And they're controlling what you can and can't say about woke stuff. Like, this is what's being alleged, basically. And this is, obviously exaggerated for comedic effect. But again, like, play it through. This is what people are basically alleging is happening. Maybe not this clearly, but that higher scores get paid out, that you can't mention certain things, that you have to mention like exact phrasing of certain things, and it's so hilariously stupid. that it's hilarious. I mean, it's comedy gold. But this is why I just really, really want people to play it through. Because I know it's easy, it's kind of fun to be like, oh, IGN was bought, they gave this game a 9. Like, I know it's fun and funny to say that, but it is, it's just not true. Like, and if it were true, it would be one of the biggest scandals in media history. Like, it would be illegal in almost every country I know of. So, like, we can joke, we can troll a little bit, but like, just if there's somebody that is so dedicated to hating on something that they're willing to accept hilariously fake evidence because it furthers their narrative, maybe they don't actually care about the truth and they're not actually looking for the truth. They probably think that they have it and they're willing to look for anything to back up what they currently believe. And that's no way to discover truth. That's no way to figure out what's real. And in a funny way, it actually makes them guilty of the very thing that they're accusing others of. They're accusing others of being dishonest, others of obfuscating the truth in pursuit of pursuing and putting out their ideology and refusing to listen to anybody else's opinions or perspectives, when in reality, they're the ones spreading misinformation and they're the ones ignoring everything else. And as we've outlined before, there's a lot of very good reviews for Dragon Age. And yeah, there's some bad ones, but there's a lot of very good reviews for Dragon Age. And these people are not willing to look at those good reviews or consider that maybe those people were being honest. No, they have to all be bought and all paid for. And that's again, no way to discover truth. And it's true of video game reviews. It's true of politics. It's true of religion. If you ever find yourself being totally unwilling to consider that you may be wrong, or that even though this backs up your current belief that maybe it's not real, you might still be right, but this thing isn't real. Like, you're not concerned with what's true. You're concerned with your team winning. So, anyway, it's stupid, but isn't that freaking hilarious? Isn't that just so funny? I could not get enough of it. Yeah, crazy how he'll just blatantly lie to any people with functioning eyes. So, it wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was true. I posted this as a rumored leak, and it turns out it was false. Sometimes rumors don't pan out to be true. It's like, bro, I'm just asking questions. It's literally all he's doing. It's unreal. It's unreal. So, anyway, we'll move on from that. But I wanted to get that out there because people were sending it to me last stream and being like, oh, all of our suspicions were true. It's the most hilariously fake thing I've ever seen in my life. And again, even if you still, everything Grum's, like the perspectives that he's preaching and pushing, that all might be totally legitimate and totally accurate. You know, I don't like activist involvement in games. You guys know that. We've covered many of those types of games. But if you were looking to this guy to back up your points, I think you need better company. I think that's the point. Okay. Let's see. The Norman Conquest, thank you for the 5. Can I please clip your Concord eulogy to use for the podcast I'm on this Monday? I will, of course, give full credit. Sure. That sounds fun. Go for it. It's important to lay those things to rest, to lay Concord to rest. I think that's what we're going to do moving on, by the way. I think whenever a game has a cataclysmic collapse, we're going to put on like a whole funeral. Maybe we'll do whole streams. So like if Fair Game $ comes out and is a big flop, maybe what we do is we have like a whole stream that's like a funeral. And like I'll dress up in all black. Jacob will be here and we'll just do like a couple of eulogies. We'll have some songs. We could do all sorts of things like that. I saw the let's see, it was really funny. Lolcow Live which you don't have to watch to be clear, but LolCow Live, they were trying to troll one of their members because he bailed on one of their shows. He had a gallbladder issue, but he like didn't call them or talk to them. So they trolled him and had a funeral for him, even though he's still alive. And they had him come on, and they just didn't talk to him the whole time, pretended like he was dead and a ghost. And then they just started trolling him pretty hard. It's pretty funny, but they even had like music
that killed him. And it turns out his gallstones was not the only thing that killed him.
So to be clear, Keemstar, Boogie, Wings is the guy they're trolling.
It turns out that at the moment of his death, his blood was 10% Pepsi, 90% bitch.
No. I can't have the motherfucker faking cancer say I got 90% bitch in my blood, son.
I cannot believe
this is the same dude that needed a pistol to go confront somebody at the door with a camera in their hand. This is the same motherfucker.
Who would have thought that I faked cancer and I have less bitch in my blood than he does?
Got him. But you know what they did is they actually had like an AI generated song, and I need people in chat. If any of you guys know how to make these, please make one for Concord, because like they're not bad.
Man named Richard took his final flight. Wings of redemption soared into the night.
It's not bad, right?
Gallbladder surgery turned the final page. Kelly now inherits his double wide stage.
Like, it's really not bad. So imagine if we had like a whole funeral for Concord where we have like multiple music parts. Maybe we have a part where members of the channel, we have them in like a Discord, and we can have people come in and they can say a few words about the game that's died, and kind of like a funeral, and people can come up and share final messages. We could do that. It could be super, super fun. It could be super fun. Yeah, we have a funeral pyre. There's all sorts of things we could do. So hopefully we don't have any big flops again. That's the desire, but time will tell. I have a feeling we might see some more. Okay. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's do it. Here we go. DBZ Now, thank you for the 5. Do you think Culture War has invaded the gaming community to an extreme extent where the actual gameplay doesn't matter? Just ideologies clashing? I think for the vast majority of people, it still is about the game. If the game looks boring, people aren't going to buy it. If the game looks good, they will buy it. Dragon Age is a good example. Like,
what does sub with Prime do for you if it's free for me?
I believe thank you for the sub, by the way. I believe it's basically just a sub, but Papa Bezos pays for it. And so I still get like $2 or $3 or whatever it is from it, but it doesn't cost you anything. So it's just like a little bit of cash. A lot of like big streamers, the vast majority of their income comes from Prime subs, which is why everybody was freaking out when there were rumors Amazon was going to get rid of it, because it's just a decent way. If you watch streamers, if you want to support them and you already have Amazon Prime, you just sub with Prime, and then it's like a couple bucks to the streamer without having to do anything. So I appreciate you sending it in. Appreciate that. Nobody needs to. I'm glad you guys are just watching and hanging out. The vast majority of my income comes from the ads on stream clips. Something like 85-90% of all the revenue on this channel comes from those ads from people watching the clips. So never feel like you need to sub or donate or anything. If you do, I'm very thankful, but understand I'm just glad to have you. Do you think Steam/Metacritic should try to ensure people who leave reviews have played the game for at least 10 minutes before leaving a bad score? Yeah, I mean, Steam has the tags where like you can see how many hours they played at the time of the review, and that's helpful. I think that reviews that have less than like maybe an hour probably shouldn't count towards the mostly positive, overwhelmingly negative, whatever score. I can understand how maybe that could be bad because if a game just doesn't launch, for example, people are going to leave a bad review, and that would be fair. But it goes back to the age-old issue of review bombing. Reviews are meant to indicate to the broader public how a game is, and if people are review bombing it, it's really hard to get anything from it. Like even if we just like Google Dragon Age the Veilguard, you can basically like mentally just block out the 1 stars. And then this is probably a good indication of where most people are. Some of the people giving a 1 star are because like they can't get the game to launch. There's been problems.
Kill_54 is now.
Oh baby, thank you.
What's up, Luke? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too, my friend. Hope you had a good Halloween. But like some people who are giving a 1 star are accurately reflecting and arguing their point. Like they're saying, hey, I couldn't get the game to launch. Apparently some people have had luck if they reinstall GeForce drivers. It's like an NVIDIA problem. So I recommend if you've been having troubles getting it launched, just reinstall in GeForce experience, just reinstall the drivers and that fixes it for most people. But these guys, a lot of them are saying that, but there's also a lot of these people who are just saying, don't buy it, it's woke. And like, is that a really helpful review? Like, probably not. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the reviews are AI generated. Like there's people that put a lot of thought into it. Some of these 1 stars, I'm sure I've also put a lot of thought into it and stuff. But like this person posted this 11 hours ago. That would have been 12:20. So that would have been about 90 minutes after the game went public. You're telling me that somebody who is writing a review about like the nuance of the dialogue and the writing finished the game in an hour and a half? Or 11 hours, not 24 hours ago, 11 hours. So even then, like they've got 13 hours into it. If they played it nonstop the whole time. I don't buy it. I think a lot of these people, they really want it to be bad and they watched a Skill Up review. And so now they're just echoing it and they're copying everything down and writing it there. Like if you play the game and you don't like it, that's cool. Honestly, I'm going to talk in a minute about my thoughts on it. There's big chunks of the game I don't like. Big old girthy chunks. But I don't think it's a 1. I think giving it a 1 star is like pretty hilarious. You know, I think that's a problem. But okay, I guess we can do that. New segment. Okay. So Dragon Age the Veilguard, it's out. I've been playing it for pretty much all of yesterday. I have thoughts. It took me a while to get through the parts that I had already played at the preview event. Now I'm playing pretty much just stuff that's all new to me, which has been very, very interesting. And my thoughts are as thus, such and so. I think the game is currently playing much more like Fallout 4 than I thought it would in terms of role-playing. It has the same kind of dialogue problem where most of the time dialogue options are like 3 or 4 different ways of saying the same thing. So it's like, ooh, you can say, somebody's saying, should we give up or should we push on? And you can say, we can push on as a question. You can say, we can do it. Let's push on confidently. Or you can be sarcastic, like, I guess going back would be really hard. So I guess we can push on. So you can say it kind of sassy, or you can try to say no and be like, well, I really think we should go back, but you're right. Let's push on. So every way you say it, you end up doing the same exact thing. It just makes you feel like maybe there's more choice and more nuance there. And that happens a lot. But to be fair, I am still relatively early in the game. So maybe that changes as the game goes on. Maybe right now it's just in a more linear part. It's going to branch out. What I've heard from multiple people who have finished the game, who got their like early copies and are done with it, they said the ending is actually very, very good. And it actually does tie in a ton to the decisions you make. So it may not be that impressive in the mid game and early game, but towards the end they say there actually is a lot of consequence based on how you approach stuff. Time will tell if that ends up being true, because some of the stuff that was implied to me at the preview event, such as the much darker tone or the complexity of companions and stuff, like a good chunk of that stuff has not proven to me right now, at least, to be accurate. I feel like the tone is much more Disney than I was hoping. The vibe is much more, again, I point to Fallout 4 because it's just, if what I said in the video that's going to go up later today is it all feels very low energy. You know, where if we're having a conversation or if we go on an adventure together through a magical world, you would think there'd be times where maybe it's really low energy and it's like, I'm just so tired and we're sitting around the campfire, let's talk about Solus and what's going on. And then maybe there's another time where we're hiking and I'm like, maybe a little more upbeat, I'm excited, and so the energy has changed. Or maybe there's other times where a dragon flies in and you freak out about it. You'd expect there to be peaks and valleys of emotion and energy through these conversations. But most of the time, the delivery is flat across the board within Dragon Age. And it's kind of, it makes it easy to kind of zone out because you'll be talking to characters and they'll be like, we need to push on. It's what we must do. Ah, yes, I think we should move on. Solus is approaching and we must find the villains. Yes, that is what we must do. Let's go. And then the next scene, a dragon will fly in, horrifying dragon massacring people. And they're like, my God, it's a dragon. Get down, the dragon's coming. It's all at the same energy level, you know? Instead of, oh my God, there's a dragon, run away. Like, you'd think that's how they would react because it's a freaking dragon. But no, it's all like 6 out of 10 in terms of energy. And I don't know if that's just like a scene direction problem. I don't know if that's a script problem. I don't really know. But I feel like the energy levels are too consistent. Like, it's very flat, not quite monotone, but in terms of energy, it's very monotone from scene to scene to scene. I mentioned this in my preview. I thought it was maybe just like the demo thing we were playing, but there were multiple like sequences where I feel like scenes are missing. Yeah, there's a fire sale. I know exactly what you're talking about. I love that. There's multiple sequences where I feel like scenes are missing. So I talked about this in the preview where like there's one part where you go out and you are on a boat and you're basically going to go down under the lake, basically, and under the water into a separate area. And you would think that they would show that, or there'd be some cutscene or sequence where you see how you end up down there. But instead, there's just like a fade to black, and then you're in this new underwater area. And it feels like, okay, I think there was maybe something there that got cut, and then they just skipped over it. And there's multiple instances like that where it feels like there was supposed to be a level or a sequence that's just not there. And I've heard other people talk about it. It ties in with the pacing where it feels like there's multiple like levels that just kind of are stuck together, even though there's not a lot of connective tissue between them. Part of this I do think is tied to the live service origins of it, which we'll talk about in a little bit, because people forget, but it started as a multiplayer game, and some of the DNA of that still remains, where you can tell the levels were set up where you would load in and your teammate would be playing as this companion, and then this teammate would be playing as Harding, and then this teammate as Varric, and you get in there, you go through the levels, and then after you're done with the level, you load back to the hub, and then you guys go and load into another mission together. And so you can see how it's still set up in that way. And it makes it a little jarring, honestly. It's a bit jarring. So my experience thus far has been much less fluid than I was hoping for. Some of the stuff I was told would be there in the final game is not really there. The writing also is probably my biggest gripe, in addition to the energy problem, where, like, I'm sorry, human beings don't really talk to each other this way. JV put it so well, and I call this out in the video. JV's currently on like a YouTube hiatus, but he put this out, and this was so brilliant. He says, as someone who does really like the new Dragon Age, the dialogue bugs me too, but not for silly cultural reasons like woke or DEI. It feels like it was written by folks who have gone to therapy, and that sort of self-care language has seeped into the dialogue. It's not constant, as some folks will suggest, but it is present when talking to companions, and that is not an insignificant amount of time. Therapy language isn't necessarily a bad thing. I go to therapy, but at times it does not work for me here. Examples: let's take these problems one day at a time. That's all you can do. Look at the bright side of the situation. That's a win in my book. Let's focus on the real issues. We can't be fighting each other. You are enough. You don't need to prove anything. And like, I can appreciate that this is maybe how supportive people talk to each other, okay? But like, this is not how human beings talk to each other. Like, if I tell my brother Jacob, yeah, man, I'm really stressed out right now. I'm just really stressed, and I'm just feeling a little down on myself. Jacob's going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? You're living the dream. Suck it up, Buttercup, you dumbass. Like, and he's going to slap me upside the head. That's how, like, a lot of people talk to each other. Maybe this is just a guy thing. Maybe guys just talk to each other like that. They use BetterHelp, yeah. Exactly. But like, I feel like maybe some people talk to each other like this, but I do think that JV's right, where it's this like therapy language, which I've never heard anybody refer to it that way, but it is something that you'll start to see in a number of these games where characters talk to each other like a therapist talks to their patient. Your feelings are valid, and I appreciate you. And it's like, I don't think the character would have said, I think the character would have been like, shut the hell up and figure it out. You know, like, there's a dragon outside. I don't care how you feel. Suck it up, loser. You'd think that that's how, but instead it's like, I know it's scary. I'm frightened too, but we can do this. You are capable of so much more than you think you can. Instead of, suck it up, there's a goddamn dragon. We're all gonna die if you don't figure your crap out. You'd think that's how human beings talk. But no. Not in this game. So that's the other thing I have. Some people will not care or notice. Some people will be fine with it. Because there are some types that do talk to each other this way, and I mean, I've met a couple of them. They tend to be a lot of theater people. And it's funny because I've heard people reference it a few times this year, people referring to it with like certain political campaigns, saying it felt like it was run by theater kids. But I also think that it's pretty clear Dragon Age was written by a lot of theater kids, because a lot of theater kids talk this way too, because I think a lot of them are in therapy. And I'm saying this is somebody who has been in like many plays and musicals and stuff. Okay. So I know theater people very well. Tend to be a therapy heavy group. Just saying, you know, they would admit this too. But I think that the writing quality is one thing I've been frustrated by, in addition to the energy. And I think they kind of tie together, because if the writing doesn't give an actor a chance to be really intense, then you're not going to see that. Like, there's only so much you can do with the script. So I think that's a whole thing. Yeah, even if you hate Neil Druckmann, he's great at writing natural sounding dialogue. Well, one thing, again, whether you love him or not, one thing that Neil understands is something that my old like playwriting professor talked about, and I've mentioned it 1,000 times. And it was that novice writers or bad writers write a lot. Expert writers write enough. And I think that is very, very accurate. I mean, I really think that that's on the nose. because you can tell with something like a Forspoken or Saints Row, where there's so much dialogue, it's just overkill. Like you mentally check out because they just keep rambling about stuff. Whereas with The Last of Us, at the very end, she says, swear to me, everything you said about the Fireflies was correct, or was true. And Joel pauses, says, I swear. And they finish the game with Ellie looking and thinking, going back to the camera and just saying, okay. And that's how they finish it. They didn't need her to be like, well, Joel, I'm not sure I believe you because we've had a long journey and you are not the most trustworthy man. I think perhaps you are not being honest with me and I am doubting our relationship together. For, pray tell, 3 years ago you spake thusly. Like, nobody's doing that. That would have been awful. It would have been awful. But the one thing that Neil does understand is that sometimes you can say a lot more with a lot less. Yeah, Luke's one-man show. Yeah, that's the time to join into the stream. It's just me pacing back and forth. So I think the subtlety in dialogue is something that is sort of a lost art form. Baldur's Gate does it really well. CDPR does it really well. If you want to see some really good dialogue, just play through like the Judy quest lines. Oh, so good. So well done. So I think they've done it really, really well. But this is like my problem with activist involvement in the writing of video games is activists are not good writers, because if they were good writers, they would just be writers. They wouldn't be activists. You know, like it's like they used to say where they're like, you know, politics is Hollywood for ugly people, or, you know, lobbying is business for stupid people. If you were really good at business, you would just be going and running a business. If you were really good at acting or performing, you would just go be a performer or actor. And so if you're an activist, like, it's probably because your writing career was not working out. So you went and found another way you could make a career out of writing by tagging the word activist along with it. And so I don't like activists writing my games because they don't tend to be very good writers, you know? And I that's why I also tend to not have a ton of stress about this stuff, because like the games where these people have participated in the writing, it's usually pretty clear. Like with the Saints Row reboot, you know, it's pretty obvious because the writing's so bad. And here I don't think it's anywhere near on the level of like Saints Row or Dustborn or anything like that. It's nowhere near that bad, but I do think that there was not enough editing. They left a lot of stuff in here that could have been cut, and the game I think would be much better. It's very self-indulgent writing, very self-indulgent, you know? I think that's where it's at. It's the same thing with like Starfield or Fallout 4, where it's like, you could have cut like half of this quest line or half of this conversation and I would have learned more, you know, like really, for real. But what else is there? In terms of combat, it really depends on the class you pick. It really does. I think the warrior class is meh. A lot of people are picking it, and I think that's why they're burning out on combat. It's probably the weakest. It starts the strongest in the early game, but towards the end of the game, it gets really boring. Mage starts the most boring, but ends up the most interesting, in my opinion, in the late game, based on the previews that we did. And then Rogue is just really solid in the middle. Doesn't change that much as you go through. But I think if you're playing like warrior class, it's going to get boring as the game goes on. Some people really hated the mage class, to be clear. Like, you might be one of those people that just hates it. But in my opinion, mage has the most interesting combos with companions and loadouts and stuff as the game goes on. Other things like loot, quest design, I really appreciate the big set pieces, the cinematic approach that they took. There's some cool stuff to be found. all in all, I don't think it's my game of the year. I don't think it's beaten out Metaphor ReFantasio for me, but I can appreciate what it is. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I don't think it's probably even a 9 out of 10 for me, but I certainly don't think it's a 1 out of 10. I don't think it's a total disaster. You can have a lot of fun with it, and I think a lot of people will. But I don't think it's a masterpiece. But the lesson of this year, I think, really has been that it doesn't have to be a masterpiece for you to still get some fun out of it. You know, you can have some fun with it. It can have problems. Not everything has to be a masterpiece for it to be potentially worth your time. So there's that. I just, we'll see how it continues, because I feel like as the game goes on, there's kind of two ways this could go. It could either just get way worse with the dialogue and writing, in which case for me, it's going to start slipping into like the 6 out of 10 range, where it's like really hard to recommend. But it could also pick up and get way better as the game goes on, and as I build relationships with the companions, in which case it could slip into like the 8 out of 10 range. It just depends. I can understand why some people would love it and eat it up. For me, it's just not on that level, but that's where I'm out. Like I said, I'm still not super far in, so we'll see how my opinion potentially changes as time goes by, but we'll see. Will you try old Dragon Age games like Dragon Age Origins? Oh, I have, yeah. No, it's they've certainly aged quite roughly, but yeah, I've tried them. Let me catch up on these real quick. Where was, okay, Afro Jedi, thank you for the 10. If you get rid of the 5 stars and the 1 stars, Dragon Age would still be a very good game based on the median scores. Personally, I wait for the 50% Steam sale. Yeah, and I think a good number of people will do that too, and I think that's totally fine. KA, thank you for the 5. I refunded. Feels like Dragon Age Inquisition without the Inquisitor. Dragon Age Origins and 2 and Inquisition all had different stories and threats. Veilguard felt like a direct sequel to Inquisition. Yeah, I could see that. I would also say if you refunded it within 2 hours, you have not seen how they splinter off and make it. So I would say, I think I know what you're saying, but I think you refunded it before you saw how they make it its own thing. And I can't really describe this clearly without just getting into spoilers, but if that's the only reason you refunded it, I think it might be worth you taking another crack at it, because I think you bailed too early, if that's your problem with it. 18 Ministries, thank you for the 5. So far, I'm enjoying it. I do feel people are a bit nonchalant about things. Love your work, bro. Keep up the good work. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, it's just this general vibe of like 6 out of 10 energy with everything. Every conversation is, well, that's interesting. We could go and do this. I think we could talk this way about it. And it just never really goes anywhere, you know? It's like, I want there to be energy. I need more. But everybody's just acting like they just got off of running a marathon. Hannah, thank you for the 5. For the German localization, they invented a third pronoun that is poorly implemented and used inconsistently. Inconsistently. All those scenes are super jarring. Oh yeah, I bet that could be weird if your language doesn't work with that. Yeah, that's interesting. More energy, more footwork. Yeah, now you're talking, Gotham. Thank you for the 5. Dustborn, Saints Row, and Veilguard is what happens when you stop hiring based off of meritocracy. I think it's what happens when you're scared of, or when you don't want to tell people this is bad or this isn't very good. One of the problems with Naughty Dog is that I forget the interview. I think it was about Uncharted 4, but one of the game designers said, we probably make an extra 30 to 40% of the final game that is never seen. So like, you know, if the game is 20 hours, they're like, yeah, we probably make an extra 6 to 7 hours that people will never see because we cut it. There's just tons of stuff that we leave on the editing room floor because we didn't like how it flowed. We didn't like how this. And have you ever played The Last of Us Part 2 whatever they called the update. I guess it was technically the remaster, but they had all those cut scenes and sequences that were between certain story beats that they cut out for various reasons because they thought it killed the energy or the flow or whatever. And I feel like Veilguard is what happens when none of those cuts are made. And a lot of these other games where like Dustborn just frankly never should have existed, but because nobody was ever going to be interested in that. But Saints Row also, it's like, how did nobody pause and be like, can we not talk about student loans? Like maybe players don't want to think about it. Like, can we not do that? But nobody ever stopped to just say that. And, you know, the term's been thrown around a lot, toxic positivity. I think that in sentiment is accurate. I think there's a lot of this philosophy of everyone's perspective is valid. Everyone's quests that they wrote are really interesting and compelling. And it's like, no, Timmy, you wrote a bad quest. Jimmy, this one's stupid. Everyone hates it. It's cut. Sarah, why is everyone sobbing in your quest line when they like spilled a cup of tea? Stop it. We're not doing that. They just needed somebody to come in and just start yelling at people. But I don't think that's something they're interested in doing. And I think that a lot of these games would have been better if they were willing to just get in there and yell at people. Let's see. Sentry, thank you for the 5. Do you recommend Veilguard, especially to a long-term Dragon Age fan who played Origin and Inquisition, or is it still too soon to say? I think for me to say either which way, it's too early to say. What I'm gonna do is Nikki, my wife is playing it, and she is an old school fan, die hard through and through, and she's only like classic Nikki style. She spent like 2.5 hours, in the character creator. I like came upstairs to check on her and see like, oh, what did you think of the prologue and stuff? And she was just finishing her character. I was like, you're so funny. But once she's further in, I will ask her, and maybe we bring her on stream and talk about it. And I think her recommendation will be much more telling. If she's like, no, it's not really Dragon Age, that will say a lot. But if she's like, I love it, that will also say a lot. So yeah. I spent 4 hours because I had to do the Inquisitor too. Oh, geez. That's crazy. 4 hours in the character creator. One guy I saw, he was like, because in my brain, the character creator is like not even the game. The character creator is before you even start the game. But one guy I saw, he was saying that, no, the character creator is part of like the gameplay. Think of the character creator as a feature of the game that's also adding to your enjoyment and your playtime. Don't think of it as a separate thing. And I was like, I guess when you think of it that way, spending 4 hours in the character creator is not that crazy if it's something you're actually getting like enjoyment out of and it's fun for you. But in my brain, it just does not click. In my brain, I'm like, that is so crazy. Like, I don't understand how you could spend so much time in that. But obviously, there's a lot of people that eat it up. I really think they should have, with a lot of these games, dropped the character creator ahead of time. Like they did with Dragon's Dogma, where they dropped the pawn creator early. I think that's a great way to do it. So, like, a lot of people eat this up. They eat this stuff up. They love it. Does she like the game so far? Yeah, she's probably only, like I said, she spent a long time in the character creator. So she's probably only like 2 hours into the actual game, maybe. And so she's pretty early on, but she's liking it so far. Last night she got back from rehearsal at 11:30 and she's like, I'm so tired, but I just want to play. I just want to go play. And I was like, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Let's see, where was Matt, thank you for the 5. Would you be interested in doing a deep dive video on choice and consequence in AAA games? What big titles get it right and wrong? I feel like I bring it up a lot in various conversations and discussions about all sorts of different stuff. So I feel like it does come up a lot. But as for like a dedicated video on it, Maybe on the live channel. I'd have to think about how to get it framed right for the main channel. Which, by the way, calling it main channel and live channel now feels weird because the live channel is quickly approaching the point where it might get, within like a few months, it might be at the point where this is where most of the revenue comes from, this channel. The other channel has like 570,000 subs, and we very easily could get to the point where this is where most of the revenue comes in. Just from like the ads on the stream clips. How insane is that? Like how crazy that. Live is more content. I mean, I think for me, it's easier. I think a lot of people like the more casual vibe, which I obviously like. And so I think that goes a long way. I think that helps it a lot. But I've been blown away. Like I come on here, I talk about games. I feel like I'm not really stressing too much about stuff, but like the performance of the channel just keeps ticking up and up and up and up, and it's very, very humbling. So thank you guys for the crazy support that we've seen. Luke should do chess streams. I should, or at least play chess more on stream, because I love it. I am super out of practice, but yeah, I eat it up. I eat it up. Tell you what. Yeah, it used to be 1,000 viewers were a lot. Now it's normal. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It wasn't that long ago where we were struggling to get like 250 viewers in. But you guys know the insane thing, and I'm very thankful for your patience on this. I'm a 2K Andy. yeah, look at that. People have been frustrated because they're like, why are there now ads playing on the streams? You didn't used to have ads on the streams. Well, I wanted to experiment with something, because one of the philosophies on YouTube is that YouTube promotes the videos they can make the most money on. Makes sense, right? Like YouTube wants to make money. They're going to push videos where they make more money. Checks out. Lines up. So I was like, I wonder if that applies to streams too. If they like push live streams more, if ads are on versus off. Like if they'll send it to more people's feed based on the monetization. And so I tried on YouTube turning on the automated ads. And within a week, our average viewership was up by like 35-40%. Just by turning on the automated ad thing, where it plays an ad every once in a while for non-members or non-YouTube premium guys. How insane is that? Like, just flipping that switch where the ads like turns on and YouTube runs them, all of a sudden, like YouTube's like, okay, now we'll distribute the video. Like it feels like they were holding the stream hostage for ages, and then we just flipped the switch and they're like, okay, yeah, now we'll send it to subs and we'll send it to people. It's funny, but it's weird how that works. I don't know. Jorvin, thank you for the sub with Prime. Just a random bruh. Thank you for that. Dr. Hank, honestly, after waiting for and then playing Rocksteady Suicide Squad, I'll happily accept a 6 or 7 out of 10 BioWare game, which is sad when you think about it, but in this current gaming climate, a mediocre game that's at least partly fun is better than nothing. Yeah, I think you're right. Andy, thank you. I think you're right. I think you're right. It's just, I think last year spoiled us a lot. We had a lot of like masterpiece level games. But I do think there's just been an issue where people feel as though a game, if it's not a 9 or 10, it's bad. And like you see it on social media now, people are like, well, Dragon Age Fail Guard. I'm like, guys, it got basically the same Metacritic score as Black Myth Wukong, which a lot of us ate up. It's like low to mid 80s. Like that's crazy. They're basically on the same level. You may disagree with some of the reviews. That's totally fine. But to pretend as though it's like a disaster is just wrong. Like, I've seen some YouTubers that I appreciate, that I have generally agreed with. I've seen some YouTubers that I followed that have started posting videos where they're like, Dragon Age Veilguard disaster. And I'm like, it's objectively not. Like, maybe you really want it to be, but like, it's not. I don't see what you're looking at. I don't get it. You know? Anyway, where was I? Guy Loken, thank you for the 5. Key to political art is to avoid activism. Take the Matrix and what it is to its creators. Nobody is told how to think. You're allowed your own view. Yeah, I think the key difference, Guy, and I think this is the crucial bit. Stories, if they're interesting, are inherently political because you have to talk about stuff that is polarizing, that some people disagree on and all that. That's the point of many stories that are interesting with conflict and stuff. The key, and I think this is where our definitions of politics have gotten melded and blended together because of our current political climate. But I think the key is activism. There's something tied with it where it's like lecturing. You know, where they lecture you to think a certain way. And if you don't agree with them, you're bad or evil or something. And I think that is really where the problem comes. Because you see it with like Saints Row Reboot, where all the characters start lecturing each other, but indirectly the player, on like how evil capitalism is and how evil rich people are and how evil like all the student loan stuff is. And you could agree with all of it. But a lot of people play video games to like experience the opposite of lecturing. They want to escape the world. They want to have fun. They just don't want to think about all that stuff. Even if they agree with the guy on screen, they just don't want to listen to that. Like, they're good, bro. You know, like, they're good. And I think that's the big problem a lot of people have with these games, is that it's not a respectful thing where they're just like, these are the perspectives of the two parties and they're fighting, and this is the nuance and the discussion over. Like Metaphor ReFantasio, there's all sorts of political discussions in that game, whether it's class distinction, whether it's religious institutions oppressing certain peoples, whether it's sort of an aristocratic approach to governing or a group of elites that are working together to screw over the underclasses. Like, there's so many political conversations that are going on in that game. And yet it doesn't feel like it's a problem because they're not lecturing you about it. They're putting these things in the world and the characters are navigating it, trying to figure it out. And that's it. There's no moments where the characters break away and start going, you know, Heismay, this is what's really unacceptable. The troubles of capitalism. If only there were a single payer option for healthcare. You know, like, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. But because they respect the audience enough to think about it and to evaluate these things more critically, it works much, much better. And so I think that the lecturing is the key part in all of this. If you just want to analyze political situations, that works in video games. That's totally fine. But it's the lecturing that people have a problem with. And it's like, especially if you don't like it or if you disagree with parts of it, therefore you're the problem. That's where people really get freaked out. That's where people really get ticked off. When it's like, I don't like this. And like, okay, racist. That's when people check out. They're like, okay, we're not doing that. A big part of why people loved Game of Thrones was because of the politics. I never heard anyone say, I don't want politics in my show. Yeah, well, and that's why I think it comes down to like the specifics of the definitions people are using. I think a lot of people agree on this stuff. They just end up talking past each other. I don't think it's that people dislike politics in their media, in their games. They dislike a certain breed of politics. This like lecturing, this dismissive sort of condescending approach to politics. That's what people have a big problem with.
Taylor Bunker, Spitty_T, is now a member.
Ooh.
It's also about selecting political topics that integrate well with the game world and the story you're trying to tell. Topics should amplify the story.
Totally totally agree. And I think that that's why maybe some of this stuff is more jarring in various games where, like, I mean, it's not a one-to-one, but you know how in like AC Shadows, where they're like, no, this is not about pandering to like black gamers around the world, trying to get them to buy our game set in Japan. This is not about that. And then Yasuke comes on screen and starts swinging his big club around, and they put on like hip hop inspired music, and everybody's just like, it's not that you're putting like a political thing, and music isn't political, but like you're clearly pandering. Like, we know what you're doing. It doesn't fit. And you expect us to just hand wave it away. And if we express that we don't like it, we're the problem. How does that make sense? You know, how does that make sense? Let's see, where was I? Yeah, sad subs. Thank you for the 5. How your wife tried it at all? I know you said she loves Dragon Age. Yeah, she's like 5 hours in, but only like 2.5 into the actual game. 2.5. Sentry, thank you for that. I had such a bad experience with newer Bethesda games, Starfield and 76, that I'm really pessimistic towards my favorite companies who are controversial now. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. I am braced, everybody. I'm braced for when From Software screws up. Statistically, it's going to happen. I'm sorry to be that guy. It's going to happen eventually. They're going to screw up eventually. Everybody does. Whether you're CDPR or whether you're Bethesda or whoever. Never. I know. Rockstar too. Rockstar kind of had a few, you could sort of say maybe the like legacy collection, whatever of GTA was, whatever they called that. That maybe was their big screw up, but they also like didn't technically do that. But the thing is, like, all these companies, there was a time where it was unconscionable to suggest that Blizzard would one day be seen as like one of the villains of the industry. The idea that Blizzard would one day be in the gamers' bad graces, like, what? And now it seems so insane to think of Blizzard being anything but. You know? Yeah, I guess you could say they fumbled with Dark Souls 2, but even that, they didn't make that. That was like a separate team, wasn't it? Bill Lizard. Yeah, Blizzard, founded by William Lizard. Oh man. That's funny. Oh, Jacob made a funeral AI song for Concord. What? What is this? Okay, now I'm scared.
Imagine a hero shooter where the hero never showed. Imagine a game with a player base that just refused to grow. A 5v5 hero shooter with gameplay that's just okay. And characters that remind me of Tupperware and white bread.
Oh my god, dude.
No, I'm not talking about Overwatch. Please stop bringing up Overwatch. This game is not Overwatch. It's actually something else. Imagine a game with a story that no one watches. A game that costs $40 that Sony totally botches.
It's not bad.
It has all my favorite characters, like Lemmy, Dawn, and Craig. At least, I think that's what their names are. I never bothered to check. Concord like the grave. Your legacy is safe as a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Scoop-a-doop-a, beep-a-doop-da, scoop-a-boop-a, beep 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 phlegm. Concord was about as good as accidentally peeing on your own leg. Concord, we're here to lay you to rest. We know you tried your best. You copied so much cool stuff just to turn out lame in the end. I'll never forget my favorite moments, like when Hot Sauce Guy jumped. Remember when he jumped? That was really cool. A rat just ran by on my desk, and even the rat didn't want to play Concord, even though I blessed him with the chance. The $40 he could afford, but the rat just stared on in a trance. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead.
Oh my
Costco
God.
guys made more money than you. They were just on Jimmy Fallon too. Imagine Lennox being on Jimmy Fallon, because I literally can't. The rat on my desk is eating all my Cheerios and grapes, and also Concord is dead. Concord, like the grave, your legacy is safe.
Oh my God.
As a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Rat-a-ta-ta, beep-a-da, skim milk, the rat fleek, doo-da.
Oh, I'm crying.
A guy said he really liked it, and then a bunch of rats ate his face. That's the sound he made when Concord passed away. I wish things turned out different, but either way I'm getting paid. Concord's dead.
Oh my God.
Concord's dead. And boy is my face red. When the game came out, everybody overslept. Concord's dead. Concord's dead. Holy crap, Lois, Concord's dead. When the game out, people played everything else instead.
Oh man, the lowest thing. So Jacob, you tweaked some of those lyrics because that's amazing. My favorite part is when the guy that said he liked it, the rats ate his face. Skim milk, the rat fleep doodah.
A guy said he really liked it, and then a bunch of rats ate his face.
Dude, it unironically goes really hard. That's so good. I'll share it in chat. That's pretty good. Oh God. Oh man, I made all the lyrics. It's really good, Jake. That's very, very good. Oh my God. And it does like a good job of it too. I was ready for it to just like robotically scream when it goes but like it actually turned it into, it kept it in key. It did a really good job. Wow. Oh, my face hurts after that. Oh my God. Oh, wow. Absolute banger. Yeah. Make an AI song for your channel intro. I mean, I think we just found it. I think that's what this is. That's so good. Song of the year. And I did go through a few different versions. Oh, so it creates like a bundle of them. Oh, that's very good. That's very good. I'm downloading it. Will it let me? It might not let me. No. Okay. That's okay. That's very good. Well, let me rate it. Okay. Anyway, that's very good. My face hurts. My face is tired. My face is tired. I was like, I think Jacob worked on some of these lyrics because there's a few references in here that are very Jacob. And then when it says Lois, it's like, oh, yep, that's Jacob. That's Jacob. Even AI can make a better song than KSI. Dude, it kind of is better than KSI's. Why is it so good? It's funny how this song would make more money than Concord. It would be funny if we made it so it's like there's only one copy downloadable for a single $1, and whoever buys it like gets the download. And then it's like, okay, it made $1. It has now made more money than Concord. That's all it needs. Just a single $1. Oh man. Oh, that's so funny. You have to show this to Joe Raptor. Yeah, we can make Joe Raptor listen to the whole thing. That's so good. Okay. Oh, back to reality. Whoop, there goes gravity. Here we go. NFT, that song. Yeah, if any song needs to be NFT, it's that one. That's so good. Oh man. My face hurts. Andy, thank you again for the membership. Taylor, thank you for 16 months. Yeah, the integration of the topics. Yep. Sentry, thank you for the 10. For anyone who liked Bioware games, try Elix or Gothic. I know it's not the same, but it gave me the same feeling when I played any Bioware game. So if Veilguard's not for you, these are the alternatives. Good recommendations for everybody to keep in mind. Gothic or Elix. Afro Jedi, thank you for the 2. Rockstar screwed up Max Payne 3. Now it's dead. Oh yeah, I guess but did they develop that, or was it a separate studio and they published it? Because back around that time they did a lot of it. I think they developed it. But you remember like LA Noire, they didn't develop that. That was Team Bondi, and they shut down after LA Noire, but Rockstar published it, so it had the Rockstar logo on it. Remember what I mean? Guy, or wait, Take, thank you for the 2. Billboard 100 right now. Yeah, dude, for real. Isa, thank you for that. In the past 5 to 7 years, I think you're right. It feels like most popular media is scolding me for issues that I never said that I'm with or against. Yeah, well, it's so dismissive. That's the big thing, is like, I don't like it, shocker, when companies or games or writers like lecture me as if I'm stupid or that I disagree with them when maybe I don't. Like I've said a lot of times, the way to win people to your cause is not by lecturing or scolding or trying to shame people. That's a good way to make the dislike of it punk and like more popular. So I think it often achieves the opposite end, you know? Can we get a Spanish version of the Concord song? I don't know. Does that AI thing support Spanish? Yeah, if anybody wants to send in super chats right now for Jacob for that song, just send it in and say this is for the song, and I'll like Venmo Jacob a bonus for how good that was, okay? So send that in and I'll send him for whatever the tally is. That's pretty freaking good. Okay. Oh, my brain. That was so freaking funny. I had heard some of those songs that were not bad, those AI songs, but like this one goes way, way harder than I was ready for it to go.
He really liked it, and then a bunch of rats ate his face.
Like, how do you make a guy said he liked it, then a bunch of rats ate his face unironically sound kind of good? Like, how do you do that? I don't know how you do that. Oh man, but he did it. Okay, yeah. Here's the link again. I'll pin it so people can hear it. Oh, people say AI is bad. Nathan, thank you for the 5. It feels like there's to check corporate boxes, not to actually care. It feels like it's there to check corporate boxes, not to actually care about the issues it wants to talk about. I think bad writers, that's how they write. I think that's just how they write. Like they have a list of things they want to do, and then they just go down the list, and it's not much more thoughtful than that. And so I think like I understand what people mean when they say it feels like this is just in here to check boxes, and to a certain extent maybe that's true, but like what I mean is how boring it is and how plainly it's presented, where it's not woven into the story in an interesting way. It's just kind of thrown in there. I think that's just how bad writers write, you know? It's just I think that's just the problem with it. They're bad writers, and so they write it poorly. Spencer, all right, I'll contribute to Jacob's Song Fund. Haha, good job, Jacob. Yeah, that was good. Okay. Let's talk about an article that just went up from the one, the only Jason Schreier from Bloomberg. Okay. News segment. Okay. So So we're going to talk about the new Dragon Age development process. All right. I've already run through earlier in the stream my thoughts on the game, where I'm at right now. Spark notes. I have problems with the writing. Everybody's energy is really low. So even when there's like a dragon flying in, everybody's just like, oh, it's a dragon, instead of freaking out that, oh God, it's a dragon. It feels like there's just no variability in the energy. Everybody's just always kind of tired and sleepy. And so I think that's a writing problem mixed with like a direction problem in the narrative. So there's problems I have with it. The DNA of the multiplayer game is still very present here with how the missions are laid out, and it's kind of clunky. There's scenes where it feels like they're so jarring how they bounce around, where it harms the pacing, and it feels like there were transitions cut probably between those sequences that would have made them feel much more fluid. So there's stuff like that where I have frustrations, but on the whole, I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's bad or anything. I also don't think it's a masterpiece. It's not beaten out metaphor for my game of the year at this point. Maybe as I finish it, that changes. But as of right now, I'm like, I'm having a fine time, but it's nothing crazy. It's good enough for what I think they needed to be considered successful as a launch. But for me, it's not like a breakaway success or hit for me personally. But having said that, Jason Schreier just posted an article describing some of the development of the game. And so regardless of what you think of Dragon Age, the writing, whatever, the fact that this exists is pretty remarkable. BioWare had Andromeda, which was a catastrophic flop. And of course, Anthem, which was a cataclysmic flop. Their weird attempt at making a live service game for some reason. So they had two back-to-back horrifying failures, and then they disappeared for ages and then came back with this. And most other studios, if they have one big flop, they're done. They're shut down. People leave. Like, that's it. In some cases, you can even have a successful game, like a really good game that doesn't sell super great, and you're still shut down. Like with Tingo Gameworks before they were scooped up by Krafton. So it's not always a given that just because you have a successful game that you're going to survive, but it's much more common if you have a failure, you're going to be shut down. And it's usually a given that if you fail twice, you're definitely gone, especially within a big kind of soulless corporate structure like EA is, which is just, let's be honest, EA makes billions off of Madden, off of, I guess it's not FIFA anymore, FC, off of all their live service projects, their mobile games. They make so much money off of that stuff. If they were to cut BioWare, their company would probably be more financially healthy and stable. So the fact that this exists seems basically like just their attempt to maintain relevance within the single player area in addition to their work with Respawn. So I'm not complaining that they're propping it up, but it certainly seems like most other studios would have been shut down by now, which is why so much was riding on this. But the studio head of EA's BioWare says Dragon Age: The Veilguard received nothing but support from EA through its lengthy production cycle. And what's really fascinating about this is that, but like, this was originally going to be very different, and I think it would have been very, very bad if they had not changed it. As I say, in late 2020, when Gary McKay took over as studio head of BioWare, the EA subsidiary best known for making big role-player games, the climate was dire. BioWare, which is headquartered in Edmonton, Alberta, had released 2 critically panned games and was facing turbulent development on a new one while trying to cope with a worldwide pandemic. Wasn't fun for anybody, I'll give you that. We needed to shift how we were thinking about building our games, McKay said. BioWare, founded in 1995, purchased by EA in 2007, had won over millions of fans with its hit single-player RPGs, Dragon Age, Mass Effect. Andromeda was widely panned. The next game, 2019 multiplayer shooter Anthem, flopped both critically and commercially, and both games had gone through brutal development cycles that drove many BioWare veterans to exit the studio. This has been the main concern. It's really easy to just look at the name on the door and assume that the studio is the same. That's not how that works. It's all about the talent within. So people might look at like Rocksteady. There were rumors that Rocksteady has moved on from Suicide Squad and they're going to start working on a new Batman game. What makes you think that they are capable of making a good Batman game? All the people that made those games so great, not all of them probably, but a lot of them have left. The people that remain there are the people that were hired for the live service stuff. So why would you think that they're capable of doing something so great now? Same thing with like BioWare, where they lost a lot of their veterans through Andromeda and then into Anthem, where a lot of those veterans of RPG stuff, they didn't want to make a live service game. It's like, okay, I'm going to leave. And a lot of them did. Now, some of them did remain. Some of them came back to work on Dragon Age, but they did hemorrhage a lot of talent for sure. At the end of 2020, studio boss Casey Hudson was planning to step down and call McKay to ask if he would take over. Quote, "We had a few conversations over the course of the next month around the people and the culture. BioWare's next big project would be a new game in the popular fantasy Dragon Age franchise, but the game, which had been in development for years, was facing turmoil and had been rebooted from a single player into a live service game with a heavy multiplayer component, which EA had been pushing across many of its subsidiaries in the late 2010s. Hudson, too, was interested in multiplayer games and had been the lead visionary on Anthem." Uh-oh. And as I said at the top of the segment, a lot of the DNA from this is still in Veilguard. The way the missions are set out, you know how you go to the big what are they called? The big doors that are like teleportation things. There's a lot of instances where people in the game where like you go in the central hub to one of those, and then you go with your party, you select your party, and then you load from there into a level. The mission is more linear, and then at the end of it, you load back into the hub. It seems like that's because the original design for the Illuvian, thank you. The original design for the game was that it was going to be multiplayer. So one player would go to the Illuvian, then you'd pair with your party members, and then you as a party would travel into the level together, do the mission, go back to the hub, improve your gear, like many other live service multiplayer games that have like a hub-based system. And it still plays that way today, even though it's been transitioned into a single-player game, which is what's, again, whenever a game has like that bit of DNA in it, you can spot it throughout. It's very clear. Some employees jeeringly referred to Dragon Age as Anthem with Dragons, which worried fans after I reported on the game at Kotaku. Enthusiasts of the series wanted another single-player game, not a repeat of BioWare's biggest mistake. When he took over, McKay began to feel similarly. Quote, "We were thinking, does this make sense? Does this play into our strengths? Or is this going to be another challenge we have to face?" That's code for flop. "No, we need to get back to what we're really good at." In the months that followed, McKay met with leadership across BioWare and EA and ultimately decided to reboot the next Dragon Age a second time, pivoting back to single player. The choice was obvious in many ways. Anthem had flopped while EA's Star Wars Fallen Order, a single player action adventure game, had sold more than 10 million copies, helping prove to the publisher that not all of its games needed to be online. BioWare games were popular because of their focus on character dialogue and player-driven narrative decisions, which did not mesh with multiplayer gaming, to say the very least. Once we made that decision, a lot of things started to fall into place. In the years that followed, he would go on to consolidate more of the studio's projects, shutting down in an attempt to reboot Anthem, selling off the rights to the online game Star Wars The Old Republic to a separate studio. The goal, McKay said, was focus. BioWare then spent the next 3.5 years developing what would become Dragon Age: The Veilguard, the fourth game in the franchise, out this week. The game has received mostly positive reviews and so far top charts, although EA has not revealed sales numbers yet. I wonder if they will. It has sold decently well, at least on Steam and PlayStation. People are looking at peak concurrent players, and I mean, I think at the end of this weekend, it'll be much easier to tell. Releasing the day of Halloween is bold because a lot of people that night are not going to be playing. They're going to be out. and so they're going to play it over the weekend. So I think like today and tomorrow we'll see what the actual peak player counts are. But it's also coming out at the same time as the PC open beta for Monster Hunter, so there's going to be a lot of people playing that at first as well. So the peak player counts might not be that indicative of full performance, but even then they peaked at like 70,000 concurrents, which is far from like a cataclysmic flop for a game like this. Some things went right during development. McKay said they had the game end-to-end playable earlier than any other previous BioWare product, allowing them to spend extra time iterating. A reorganization at EA, which split the company into divisions called EA Games and EA Sports, allowed Dragon Age: The Veilguard to receive more support from internal teams that might otherwise be stretched thin, such as research and data insight groups. Quote, that gave us an extra boost in terms of support and focus on the company. But the development of Dragon Age: The Veilguard still faced plenty of obstacles. The pandemic led BioWare to shift to hiring remotely, which McKay said made for cultural challenges. The game slipped past its original target date, although McKay wouldn't say how much extra time it needed. I'm never going to call it a slip, he said, and it went through a significant scope changes over the course of development. This really does feel like the case. I think it was Maddie in his review. He said that Act 1 was like, by the end of Act 1, you've played about 70% of what the main like game narrative has. So there's that. On the flip side, I think originally it was probably much more even, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. That's what the one guy from BioWare told me at the preview event, was that Act 1 was just a third of the way through the game, as you would kind of expect. But it seems like in the final shipped version, that's not the case, so he was just mistaken. But it does seem interesting, because I feel a lot of that scope change in multiple spots where, like I said earlier, it feels like scenes are missing, transitions are missing between sequences and stuff. So there's that. Then last summer, BioWare laid off 50 people, including veterans with decades of experience. McKay told me the reduction, which arrived during a period of widespread layoffs across the video game industry, was about focus at that time. When you have a really large team, you're always compelled to keep everyone busy all the time. When you have a smaller team, you have the right people in the right roles at the right time. Some incredible momentum is gained at that point. The stakes are high for the release of Dragon Age: Veilguard, indeed. No doubt there. They said they felt supported. Now they'll see how they react. They hope it, quote, brings BioWare back into the conversation as a top game studio. Jason says, I must confess, I bounced hard off of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I've given it a few chances to grab me, but I find the combat and level design monotonous, and the story hasn't hooked me enough to make me want to keep going. Maybe it's just not for me. Instead, I'll be spending this weekend finishing up Metaphor ReFantazio, a role-playing game that has kept me enthralled until the very last minute. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I hope to be convinced otherwise, but it is really interesting how polarizing the game has been. And I think it's, if you like the sort of junk food approach to the game, it's really solid. It's really good. But if you're looking for something a little more meaty, you might find it a bit lacking. That's kind of where I'm at. Let's see. But anyway, my brain rebooted just now. So all of that to say, it's remarkable that Dragon Age: The Veilguard exists at all, given all of this. But even if it's not like as good as I think it could have been, hopefully it does just well enough that they can get a green light for another. Because again, the industry excels when there's competition. The industry excels when there's more players. If you want the best RPGs, you need a lot of companies trying to make RPGs. If you want the best open world games, you need a lot of companies trying to make RPG or open world games that can show each other how it's done. The industry is at its best when it's not built around a few monolithic franchises or developers, but rather when there's a lot of competition pushing each other. It doesn't mean you have to buy every single game. Doesn't mean you have to like every single game, certainly. But I think the more people are taking a whack at it, the better. I'm going to keep pushing through Dragon Age: The Veilguard, see if it grabs me or if I just burn out even further. Right now, I have a sneaking suspicion that I might burn out as time goes on, but time will tell. And you better believe once my wife gets further in, I will be telling you all about her perspective, because she is like the queen of Dragon Age. She freaking loves it. But like I said, in terms of player numbers, I don't think we'll really know until this weekend. You can see, even in spite of an attempted like review bombing, it's still sitting at mostly positive. There's 70,000 players in, and I think once we hit the weekend, it will really start to be clearer where it's landing. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I think it's doing well enough to be successful. Jedi Survivor. Let's see, Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor peaked at like 67,000. So people might look at like Monster Hunter's beta and be like, oh, see, it's not doing great. But like, even compared to this game, which was considered a financial success, it's doing better than this. I wonder if they ever fix this. I don't actually know. So for EA, looking 1-to-1 across their like single player lineup, it seems to be performing quite well. Whether it peaks even higher this weekend, time will tell. It might crash out. People might get an hour and a half in and then bail on it. But as of right now, it's doing well. And there's a lot of people freaking out because they really wanted this to flop. They really were convinced this was going to flop. But, you know, it's just, again, it's not a given. People ultimately care about the game. If the game is fun, if the game is compelling, they'll play it, even if it has some quote unquote woke stuff in it. It's people just care about the game ultimately. I think a sneeze coming. Oh, it's sitting like right in my brain. Oh, yeah, it hasn't flopped. Yeah, it hasn't. I don't know. I guess you have to ask what standard you're using to determine a flop. I know flops pretty good. I talk about them a lot. This does not seem to be a flop. If Star Wars Jedi Survivor was considered a success, this is almost certainly a success. Yes, it's had a very long, protracted development cycle. Absolutely. But it seems like they kind of understood that. So, can Stalker 2 be Game of the Year? I think it comes out after the deadline, so I don't think it can even get nominated. Unfortunately. I think it comes out like 3 or 4 days after the deadline. Or maybe 2 days. I think the deadline's like November 8th or something. It's like 1 month before, I'm pretty sure. So I think that they are coming out just too late. The writing's so bad compared to previous installments. Doesn't mean that it's going to flop, though. There's a lot of games that have hilariously bad writing that make lots of money. Like, again, it kind of depends on how you define it. Just because you don't like something about it does not mean it's a flop. A flop means that it is losing money. Like, it performs so poorly that it's losing tons of money and is hurting them. Like, Starfield seems to have been a real success financially for Bethesda. Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
In my opinion, not very good at all. Had some parts I liked, some quest lines I liked, but Assassin's Creed Valhalla made over $1 billion. Not in profit, that's revenue, but still $1 billion. That wasn't a flop. So there's plenty of games that have really bad writing or not very good writing that flop. You know, it's not a given that just because the writing's bad, it is a flop or it's gonna flop. There's more to it, because sometimes people are interested in games that have bad writing if there's other things they find compelling. So, okay. This isn't like a full story, but just so you guys know, Remedy has recouped most of the development and marketing cost of Alan Wake 2. It still is not profitable. They're getting there, but it's still not profitable. This is another example. Like, this game still technically has not turned a profit yet, but this was a very good game. But even this would not be considered a flop. It's just a game with tails on it, like a long tail. It's just taken a long time to recoup it. But like a flop is one where there is no hope of profitability. Okay, like Suicide Squad season 4 is not going to magically generate $200 million. Okay, like I'm sorry, everybody. It's just not. So like this will eventually be profitable. It's just going to take like a year and a half, 2 years to get there. You know, it's just how it's going. Jesus, not actual Jesus, maybe, I don't know. Why Zolox, maybe? Zolox? Yozoxley? I'm not sure how to say it, but thank you. 10 gifted subs over on Twitch. That is crazy generous. Thank you, my friend. And welcome everybody who just got a sub. And congratulations on not having to sit through ads anymore. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you. Loxy. Thank you, Loxy. There's so many X's and Y's. I'm just... Now I see that it's just like mirrored. So that's kind of cool, but... It was like, oh God, I don't know how to say that. Let's redefine flop now to mean if it ever made money. Okay. Just everything's a flop. No, but it's the same thing with the people using the word like scam. A lot of people apparently don't know what the word scam means. Like they just throw it out all the time because they don't like something. Like, I don't like this DLC, like Shattered Space. It's a scam. I'm like, it's not though. Like it's just not. I don't like Shattered Space, but it's not a scam. Like if they told you this has 100 hours of content and then it has 5, that would be a scam. They lied to you. But you can't just use random words however you want. You know, but people I don't think realize that. Yeah, thank you again, Loxy. Thank you. Black Ops 6 had the biggest launch ever. It also, this is the more important part, because it's the same thing when Todd is like, Starfield had the most players of any game we've ever had. I'm like, I damn would hope so, because it was basically free for a lot of people, but they already were buying their subscription. I would hope it was the biggest one ever. But this is the big part. Sets a new single-day Game Pass sub record. This is the whole point. They need people to sign up for Game Pass to play Call of Duty Black Ops, and they need them to keep it. I know anecdotally, and I guess I want to hear from you guys in chat, if you guys have also seen this, like all my brothers, a few of my close friends, they never would have played Black Ops if they had to pay $70 for it. But they did when they found out it was on Game Pass. They just downloaded it real quick because they already had their membership. Or in the case of one of my friends, he signed up for Game Pass to get it, to play zombies with us. That, at least anecdotally, would suggest to me that a lot of people were playing through Game Pass. And that, to me, I think is a big deal. Yes, same with two friends. Yes, same here. Same. Same. Concord scam Sony out of 400 million. That's true. Yeah, somebody was like, oh no, they weren't scammed because they weren't lied to. I'm like, yeah, and I guess if they were aware, but also if somebody is like too stupid to realize they're being scammed, are they still being scammed? I think, yeah, technically they still are. I tried because I had Game Pass. Yeah. So it seems like a lot of people are in the same boat. A lot of people tried it because they had Game Pass and wouldn't have tried it otherwise. And I'm in that boat too. I would not pay $70 for it, but being on Game Pass, now I'm interested. So all they need is for you to keep your Game Pass subscription for like 3 months. Because when you bundle in all the people that would never have bought it anyways, that now are spending money on it, then you get increased revenue. Because like if you just whittle it down and you say, okay, if 10 people were going to buy it for $70, but if we offer it for $15 a month, we can get 25 people or 30 people to get it. After just like 2 months, you've technically made more money than you did if people bought it outright, if you didn't offer it as a sub. But you have to keep them subscribed. And that's going to be the tricky bit, is whether people cancel their memberships. But Satya Nadella, seeing the CEO of Microsoft talking so openly about Call of Duty is so weird. He says sales on PlayStation and Steam, so not even like signups, just the sales, so not even Game Pass, were up 60% compared to Modern Warfare 3. And Game Pass is setting new records. That is exactly what they need. So it seems like Black Ops is a resounding success for them. It also helps that it's just like a good game. That helps a lot. It's almost like if you make a good game, people will buy it. What is this heresy? What is this? Oh, God. Of course, Monster Hunter continues to break records. Anybody that's comparing this, though, to like Veilguard, it's not like, I don't know if it's as much of a diss on Veilguard as it is a compliment to Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is just huge. People love it. And this is why I've tried to tell people, I'm like, I don't think like the Horizon multiplayer game is going to pull people away from Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter fans are Monster Hunter fans. You know, like I don't think a lot of people who are playing Monster Hunter Wilds are going to be like, okay, I'm shutting it down. I know I'm in the late game of Wilds, but I'm going to go play the Horizon live service game that looks like it's from Fortnite. I don't think anybody's going to do that. I really don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. But like, yeah, but Monster Hunter system requirements, yeah, they're heavy. They're heavy. For sure, but it's also a beta. It's going to continue to get polished up. So I think it's going to work way better when we finally get it. But it's just, I just don't think there's going to be a lot of, like Leo says, nobody wants Aloy uppies. It's very likely Aloy is not in that game at all. Because it's a live service game, they want to distinguish it, blah, 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 blah. And so it's very likely that Aloy is just not present. You might see like a mural talking about the great prophetess, the great savior, but like they put her in the VR game. Yeah, but my understanding, and this could change and be wrong, but my understanding is that their real desire with the live service game is to make it feel very different from the story, like single player games, because they don't want it to cannibalize or to harm the branding of the other. So they want, it's why there's been all this speculation and leaks and rumors and stuff about the art style. Let me see. Where is it? Yeah, this. It's why they're going with like a totally different art style. And it's because like it seems they want the single player to be considered very different from the multiplayer. They don't want it to cannibalize. They don't want people to think that way. And the other piece of it too, when you have a single player game that's graphically cutting edge, and then you come out with a multiplayer games, it's much more difficult to maintain the same graphical fidelity. Just look at Suicide Squad versus Arkham Knight. So it's really hard to maintain high quality fidelity when you are, when you're adding a lot more players to it. So because of that, they won't be able to achieve the same graphical fidelity as even Forbidden West. So they have to find some way of kind of owning that. And it seems the way they're doing that is with an art style that is more tolerant of that. So they'll do it with flatter textures, kind of, I mean, think Fortnite. What's really funny, what's really, really funny is that, like, you know how Fortnite almost always has something ready? You know? Like, I would not be surprised. Just like with Only Up. They released Only Up, and then like a day later, there's a Fortnite version of it. I wouldn't be surprised if the guys over at Epic right now are working on sort of a Monster Hunter type mode that they'll launch right next to this. I put a lot of money on it, actually. I think within like a month or two of this coming out, there's probably a Fortnite mode that is this. And they'll keep all of the young people that already have Fortnite installed for free. They're going to keep them all inside the ecosystem. Why wouldn't they? Like, it just makes too much sense. You know? Keep them in. Keep them in. They've known this is coming for a long time. And if they're going for a similar art style, keep them locked in, dude. Oh, dude, this is funny. You search Horizon Live Service game, and then my recommended is my video on it, and then my name is also up there next to Asmongold for the search. That's funny. Oh, man. But, yeah, they're trying. I don't think it's going to work well, though. I really don't. It legit looks AI generated. It came out years ago. Yeah. Years ago. Why is every live service game that style? I think because, for one, the Fortnite inspiration, they consider it modern. I spoke to one art director that's worked on several big live service games. And she told me that part of it is that it's just focus tested, that's what people tend to like the most. I think art design by committee kind of defeats the purpose of art design, because you would think that they would just do what they like. But I think when they go and they do like focus tests with like 15-year-olds, they probably rate the Fortnite style highly. I think it's a mistake. Even like Joraptor, the king of Horizon, I think it was on the podcast where he said, I hope the art style is not like that leaked concept art. I hope it's more realistic. I hope it's not that cartoony. So even like he, who is a big Horizon fan, is like, I hope that that's not what they do. And like, I'm sure it's going to be like polished. It's going to play well. I'm sure that that's all going to be true, but I think, I do think it's going to be a problem. You know what I want to try before we wrap up? You know what we must? Hold on. If it'll load. No, it's not the NFT game. We tried to play that already, but it's not the NFT game. I don't know. My nephew is 13 now and doesn't want to know about Fortnite anymore. He's playing COD instead. There is sort of a shifting and like, I think a maturing that happens for sure. Best Pringles flavor, the spicy barbecue. You know what we have to do? There's been discussions about this thing we're about to talk about. Debate over whether it's worth it. And you know me, guys. You know me. I don't take anything for granted. I will try it myself. You could say, Luke, save your money. And I would say, I'm a YouTuber. I love wasting money. You should know that. And if we really don't like it, we can refund it. Very easily. This is the Horizon remaster. DLSS, dynamic resolution scaling at 60. Is that for the frame rate? I don't know. DLSS is gonna, or the frame generation is gonna turn off VSync. So I'll leave that on. I'll leave that off. I want to see without dynamic resolution scaling what it's like. Cinematic letterboxing. That all looks good. Okay. Let's just go for it. Let's go for it. Let's see what it's like. Let's see what it's like. Wah, 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 wah. Triangle, circle, XD. Yeah, squares look kind of like D's. I said it. Contrast, sure, that looks good. Display subtitles, sure, whatever. Privacy data limited. Being part of the PlayStation community. So this is the PSN requirement. This is what is causing the game to currently get mass downvoted on Steam. The original version that was on Steam did not require a PSN account. This version does. I already have my PSN account attached to my Steam account because of Helldivers, but this is something people are quite frustrated by. It's such a weird hill for PlayStation to die on. I don't understand why it's like this big of a deal to them, why they're so insistent on getting your email address and signing up for PlayStation stuff. I think it's because they want to launch their own PlayStation launcher. And here's my theory, okay? I'm putting it out into the universe, so if I end up being right, people can come back and see this and be like, oh my God, Luke was right, okay? Because I was right about them making a Suicide Squad game. I was right about the Microsoft acquisition of ZeniMax. Like sometimes, 1 in 100 times, I'm right about stuff. So let's see if I'm right about this. My suspicion is that they're going to launch a PlayStation launcher, okay, on PC. Kind of like the Epic Games launcher or Ubisoft or EA. However, I think what they're going to do, that's why they're collecting email addresses, all this, trying to get it normalized. And then what I think they're going to do, and I think what they're going to do is they're going to offer like cross saves across PlayStation and PC. Ideally, I'd like them to offer cross buy. So you buy it on PlayStation, you can play it on PC too. I don't think they'll do that. I think they want to double dip. Let's just be honest. But I think what they'll do is they will allow people to cross save and stuff, but only if you are playing through their launcher. So they're going to try to force you in there. Be like, it's just an added feature. That's why we did it. And they're trying to get those email addresses. They're trying to get it so there's as few speed bumps associated with it as possible. Whether they still sell on Steam kind of remains to be seen. They might, and then it launches in the PlayStation launcher or whatever, but it does feel like PlayStation is a solid like 5 years behind everybody else in trying to make their own launcher a thing. But there's already been leaked like code from data miners that have found hints at a launcher, and whether they end up doubling down on it or not, I'm not sure. If they do it, I would expect they launch it alongside Marathon, like late next year. I think that's when they would do it. PlayStation Overlay will require you to provide both your credentials again once on this system. Do you want to do this now? Oh, we require you to provide your credentials once again, or again once on this system. So because I've already logged in, I can skip it. But if I want trophies and stuff, I have to log in again. What if I skip? It'll just let me skip. Okay. Nixes. They do very, very good work historically. Weaseltron. That's fantastic. I love that. Okay. Right into it. Oh, here, I can turn on.
What's that now? Don't like the cold? Can't stay in today. We have a ritual to perform, you and I. Here. Wear this. It belonged to my daughter. Good.
She does look much more human as a baby. Previously, she looked like a carved potato, but now she looks more human. I'll give him that.
Will the goddess speak it back?
Oh, there's Herman. think these sequences are
Normally, it would
pre-rendered
be the mother who declares, if you had one.
because of the text.
The whole village would attend, and matriarchs perform the ritual. But we are
I can't skip.
outcasts.
Sorry, guys.
Even so, we keep the tribe's rituals. Otherwise, we might become like the faithless
Michel Vendelieu,
turn their backs on the goddess.
Troy Mashburn, and David Ford.
But their wickedness.
I expect that this is basically just going to be like an overhaul to foliage, and I've seen some stuff where they've overhauled like the water. They've done a bunch of reworking there. But like, again, the big problem people have had with this in concept is just that the game already looked really, really good and is not that old. And we all know what this was for. There was an attempt to get a Horizon live action show produced. It has since fallen apart. They are not doing it anymore. It's been pretty much put on ice indefinitely because of allegations with the showrunner, I think it was. There's a bunch of stuff with it. It's a mess. But people, they were trying to make it a thing. They were trying to do that. And I think this was an attempt to kind of do the Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 thing, where they wanted to have this out at $50, which is how much this costs if you don't own the original version. And they wanted to get this out in time for the show so that when people were buying it for the first time, they'd be buying it at a much higher price than the original version, which was on sale for like $20. And that's the thing. Like, the original version, there was nothing wrong with it. But now that's gone. If you want to buy Horizon and you have not bought it yet, it's $50 now. And the original version is like $40. They raised the price from $20 to $40. So you can buy it in a bundle for $40 and then the upgrade for $10, or you can just buy this and you're fine. But it's very transparently just an approach to justify raising the price of this 7-year-old game, soon to be 8-year-old game. And now that there's no show, it just kind of feels out of place. It feels really random. But I think when they greenlit this years ago, the goal was to have the show coming out around this time so that they'd kind of line up. So they could capture some extra cash from people. And it didn't obviously work out, but I think that that's why this exists in the way it does. But it just, again, like reaffirms the PlayStation of the PS5 era as this like company that has really lost their creative flair. Like, they are so focused on trying to cash in on the easiest thing possible, whether that's remasters or remakes. Like, I think eventually we'll see, maybe next year we'll start to see stuff from like Naughty Dog, and we'll see more of Ghost of Yotei, and we'll see some of the stuff they've been working on. But it feels like for half this generation, there's just been close to nothing really impactful that's been exclusive to the PS5 gen. We've gotten God of War Ragnarok, which was really good, but that was cross-generational. Forbidden West, of course, but other than Helldivers, it doesn't feel like there's been a whole lot of super heavy hitters. Spider-Man 2, but I thought that was just fine. It wasn't like amazing or anything. I know some superhero fans are probably going to be really offended by that, but I just didn't find it to be that impressive. It was like, yeah, it's more Spider-Man. Like, it's fine. It just didn't feel super amazing. It was down 78% to €12. Oh, really? Yeah, too bad. Now you get to pay $50 for it. Sucks to suck, dude. Sucks to suck. Okay, now that this sequence is over, we should get to see it actually in action. Come on. Come on. Frozen Wilds is included. Normal, ultra hard. My problem with Horizon often goes down to the loot systems and stuff. I feel like they rely way too much on random drops and stuff. It drives me crazy. In Forbidden West, it was really bad. Here we go. This is the reworked model. This is actually running at 120. The previous shots were running at like 30 with motion blur out the wazoo. But now this is at like 100. Yeah, she looks more human.
That's a lot of berries. You're quite the gatherer, aren't you, little Bast? Now go and see if you can find some more,
He's cute. I hope nothing bad ever happens to him. I can tell the foliage already is definitely overhauled and cranked up. I know they've also done some redos of motion capture and stuff, but there's also some weird, like, occasional jittering and things.
Come with me.
It looked like her eyes were going different directions. I don't know. There's a couple little weird things here and there, but it's definitely, like, improved. Like $50 improved, I'm not so sure. $10 improved, maybe if you're really, really into it, but squish. Is that how the sound always was? I don't remember the sound being that weird.
Ross! Down here!
Like she falls into a cave and it's like... Is it glitching for me? I don't remember it sounding like that.
Me. Some kind of cave?
You want to hear a good scream? You want to hear a good scream? What a scream should sound like? Right here.
Said he really liked it, and then a guy said he really liked it, and then a bunch of rats ate his face.
That's what we needed her to do when she fell in. I swear to God. Okay. This is it running in real time. Ooh. In the settings. Graphics. High. Very high. Give me the highest of the high. Terrain, parallax, occlusion maps, field of view. I love the real-time changing. Depth of field. Full screen effects, of course. Texture filtering, hair quality, high. Does this change in real time? No, that's okay. Oh, it does. Screen space reflections, high. Okay.
There were rats down here.
So improved even just a tad more. I appreciate that she looks human again. She didn't look human in the original. She looked really bad. But I mean, it does look way better.
But I can get through.
It's just...
This must be a ruin of the metal world. One of the old places.
One of.
Ross said never go in places like this.
Yeah, and I'm not
I
listening
have
to him.
Find a way out.
Men are stupid. Right, boys? Damn right.
There's something up ahead.
A door? Pray tell.
A dead person. There's something shiny.
Something shiny. Honestly, dude looks pretty good for being like 1,000 years old.
How does he do this?
Okay. The cloth sim is kind of bugged. I don't know what that is.
Maybe this device I found can help.
Oh, I remember this. I remember. Yeah, I don't know what's with the cloth sim. It's like freaking out a little bit. It was doing that in the cutscene too. Is that a setting I have wrong? Is that something I'm doing? Okay, that's there.
Lights. A shape. It's connected to the door somehow. Changed color.
Changing color. Thank you, hold on. Adivarian?
The door changed color too.
Sure did. I swear to God, they put this out and then Sony just got such a crush on Herman Hulst that they just started promoting the crap out of him.
What's that?
Like, it's not bad. I don't have a problem with Horizon. I just don't think it's that good.
Happy birthday, Isaac. Daddy sure does love his little...
Yeah, it's very sad. Okay, let's get up here. I want to see the open world a little bit. The cloth is freaking me out. I don't know why it's doing that. It's really, really weird. It's just...
Why did they die here? What happened to them?
When you think about this as an intro to the game, it is a little bold. Just being like, okay, we're gonna start with a child finding dead bodies everywhere. Mother be praised. Don't they know mothers are woke now? You can't do that. Okay, now it's back to the 30 FPS cutscenes. Oh, I'm triggered. Okay.
See this plant over here?
Now we're actually
It's
moving.
called South Brush. Come, gather its berries in your pouch.
Yeah, I can see the improved texture quality. The foliage is way denser.
Good. Now eat the berries.
It is... I don't know what's with the cloth, though. It's freaking out. But it is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people are just wondering why, like, this game needed all of it and needed the price hike, but... I'm coming, Rost. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, even no matter how high you look, you can see they've really cranked the level of detail everywhere. They've done a really good job. And paired with like the new motion capture, new stuff like that, that's cool. The new models help a lot too, because some of them are really funky to begin with. I mean, it's pretty much exactly what I thought it would be. Like, it is a graphical improvement, but whether it's something that like deserves $50 if you've never bought it before, like that's a little harder to justify. But they've also spiked the price of the original version to $40, so you're pushed into buying this version. So I don't know. I'd probably still just wait for like the OG version to get a discount, but yeah. I've never seen the Draw to Horizon. Like it's not bad. I can understand why people like Horizon. I don't hate Horizon. I think it's fine. I think it's like the quintessential 7.5, 8 out of 10. Like they're not bad games. They're just not that compelling to me. How many people are in the remaster? All-time peak of 2,500. For a remaster launch, I don't know if that's good or bad. Where's Dragon Age at now? Dragon Age, the Veilguard. All-time high at 72. Dude, I'm not even joking. Look at this. Look at this. I got a screenshot. Because nobody would believe me. I checked on my phone what player counts were at. I was 2 away. 2 away. Look at that. 2 players too many. I almost caught it at a legendary moment. So close. Could have been 6.5, 420. Almost. It was not meant to be. Who was closer with their guest from the podcast? You were Jor. You said how many would it get on Steam? I said 52,000. Jor said 42. Jor thought it would be 42. He thought it wasn't going to do very well. But it's actually seemingly doing really well. It's doing better than I thought it would. And I think it's probably going to peak over 100 over the weekend. That would be my guess. Maybe into like the 90s, but right about 100, I think, is probably where it ends up on Saturday, or maybe tonight. Have I tried it? Yeah. Right now I'm at like 7 out of 10 on it. I'm like, it's not bad, but it's also not, it's not good. It's just, Well, it's I think it would be classified as good. It's not bad, but it's not great. It's not amazing. It's just, I found the writing really dry. And the once you get it pointed out to you, once you see the live service, like not live service, the multiplayer level design, and that's been pointed out to you, you can't really unsee it. It's like everywhere you look. Let me see. Thank you guys for the super chats for Jacob. Let's see what our tally is. 10, 15, 17, 19, 21, we'll say 25. Sweet. Jacob made some good money on that. Let's see. Tenacious Beagle, thank you for that. Started the Monster Hunter Wilds demo as a first-time player. It's great, but the controls are a little tricky. Any tips? I will tell you, I've played a lot of Monster Hunter, and I still am finding the controls, like, for Wilds a little tricky. They just are different from, like, in little ways. My biggest tip is, honestly, playing with a controller that has paddles on the back is a godsend, because you can still hit while using focus mode and changing your view with the right thumbstick. You can still be hitting Y and B. So I think having a controller with paddles on the back, whether it's a Scuff or an Elite or something, that helps a ton. But the controls are just tricky. Favorite weapon so far? I'm an old school greatsword. Like, that's what I typically play. But I do greatsword, I'll do longsword, I'll do dual blades. I don't tend to get like super fancy. My buddy Corey will do like insect glaive and all sorts of wacky stuff, but I tend to go pretty simple. Apostinator, thank you for the 5. Luke, can you offer advice on how to get into streaming on YouTube and how to make it successful? I mean, at the end of the day, my advice is kind of boring. It's that if you want to be a content creator, you got to create content. You just got to start making stuff, and you got to put it out there and understand that most of the stuff you have, you're going to hate in 6 months, but that's how you know you're getting better. So you just got to start, pump it out, and not give up. I cannot even tell you how many people start making videos and after 3 months they give up because it's not getting amazing views. That's part of it. Like, that's part of it. You have to kind of earn your audience, and in a lot of ways you don't want to blow up quickly. Audiences that all like fling onto a creator super fast, they tend to fall off just as quickly. Like, if you slowly build it up over time, that does a lot more and has a lot more staying power. And you'll be a much better content creator for it. So I'd really just recommend that you start on it and just get better and better and better and better and better. Just ask Dogpack. Oh, is he the guy that was doing all the Mr. Beast stuff? Yeah, I mean, he blew up a ton, but like if he uploads anything else, like it's not going anywhere. Like if he uploads a video on frickin', here's my thoughts on Dragon Age Veilguard. Like, nobody's gonna listen. Nobody cares. He got big off of someone else's name, and like that's easy, but it doesn't stick around. You know, good editing software. Work with DaVinci Resolve. I like, we use Premiere, but we would switch to DaVinci Resolve if we weren't in too deep at this point. So I do that. Never played Monster Hunter Wild's a good place to start. Yes. Yeah. It's World. I mean, we're far enough away. If you wanted to play through World, you could get through. You could get through all of that in time for the game, but. For Wilds, but I think it just depends on whether you have the time to do that. So I would say either one is a solid way to start. Love The Witcher. Yeah, it's really good. It's different, but it's really good. I tried like 10 minutes of the Monster Hunter Wilds beta and I uninstalled it. I can't really explain why, but the opening just sold just the opening sold me on it. I am just ready to dive in the full game. Oh, I see. I thought you were saying 10 minutes of the intro and you were done. Yeah, no, I wouldn't blame you for wanting to go media blackout on it. There's lots there, but it's also like you're going to play it at launch, so yeah, or just look at YouTubers that do content for one game. As Techcross, for example, anything non-Destiny doesn't do well compared to his Destiny content. Yeah, it's why I've tried very hard not to get like kind of tied down with any specific franchise or type of game. And you're seeing it now, like there were people that were making videos right before Starfield and right after that were doing 500,000 on every upload because they were riding that hype wave. But what happened when the hype died out? Now they're struggling to get like 30,000 on an upload. And it's because, again, it's riding hype can blow you up super fast, but it can also come crashing down just as fast. So I think it's really crucial to just be tactical about it. If you want to just ride the wave of hype, that's totally fine. People do that, but you will crash out. You will crash out and you'll be getting tons of views and maybe making some money. You'll be like, ooh, I could do this for a career. This is amazing. But then the game's going to come out. People are going to play it and move on. And then you'll have nothing. And you left your job, you did all this and it didn't go anywhere. It takes a lot more time to build an audience that will be with you from release to release to release. Because they're interested, and this is the key. You have to decide if you want an audience that's interested in a game and they're interested in your videos because you're talking about the game they're interested in, or if you want to have an audience that's interested in you. And then whatever you talk about is like fun and interesting enough, they'll check that out. But they ultimately want to know what you think about it. And you can tell the difference, like where there's some YouTubers, if they talk about anything other than the very specific game that they talk about, the views are non-existent. And it's because, like, yeah, they're not really watching for the creator, they're watching for the game. And it can lead to sort of a crisis of self when those creators realize that, because they're like, wait, I thought my audience liked me. And it's like, they don't dislike you, but they're interested primarily in the game. Like, they're there to watch you play Fortnite, or they're there to watch you play Call of Duty or whatever. Like, it's a separate thing. Blake, thing for the 5, the Horizon series feels like an industry plant. Doesn't feel like it should get the MCU type treatment. Mainline games are fine, but it's oversaturated. I think the key is that Herman Holst was one of the head honchos at Guerrilla when they made that. And then he got promoted super high up into the corporate structure of Sony and PlayStation. And so he's the one making those decisions. He's the one that's doing that and is really, really pushing it. It's fine.
Is now a member.
Ian, thank you, my friend. So I think that's a big part of it. I think if Herman Holst was not where he is, I don't think Horizon would be getting pushed as hard as it is. Let's see. Rango can Stalker 2 be game of the year. Yeah, like I said earlier, I think it comes too late. It comes like a few days too late. I think in regards to the ending, the last 2 to 5 hours, it'll end up boiling down to whether it's worth getting through those 40 hours to get to it. Oh, for Dragon Age. Yeah. Like I said, I've heard from a lot of people that the ending of Dragon Age is Veilguard is very, very good and very intense and has a lot of tie-in to your decisions through the game. But if you're not having fun getting there, like, what's the point? So that's why I'm interested to see what the next like 30 hours have to offer, but we'll see. Man, I played all Dragon Age games and loved them. Even 2 Sarcastic Hawk is underrated. Man, this hurts my soul. Just let Bioware die. I mean, I'm not hoping that they die. I want there to be more good studios, but only if they're making good games. I don't think Veilguard, based on what I've played so far, is bad. I just don't think it's what a lot of Dragon Age fans were hoping for. But I'm very excited to see what like my wife says about it once she gets further in, because if she doesn't like it, that's pretty indicative of what BioWare, like old school Dragon Age fans, will think. Whereas I'm more on the outside.
So.
Okay. Bunch of people are playing the Destiny mobile game. Oh, weird. Didn't realize that was out. Or it's not out, but like the playtests are out. Master Cheeks! That's good. I like that. Welcome.
Cheeks is now a member.
Master Cheeks, indeed. Game Awards is December 12th. Yeah, and then the cutoff, I believe, is like November 8th or something. Like you have to have your game released by then to be considered for any awards, because they do the nominations and then they vote and all of that stuff. So I think the cutoff is like November 8th or something. So I think it technically comes over right after. Does Game of the Year roll over? Yeah, like if you release in December, you can technically be nominated for Game of the Year the following year. So if Stalker 2 is, say, a 10 out of 10 masterpiece across the board, Metacritic of 98, and it's fantastic, it will get nominated in 2025. But I cannot think of a time where a game released like that and won. And it's primarily because, like, by the time Game of the Year has come out, or the Game of the Year is announced for 2025, people are like, oh yeah, I love Stalker 2 a year ago, but I just finished Grand Theft Auto 6 and I loved it, so I'm going to vote for that. You know, I think that that's the problem. If you release in December, you're just kind of like accepting that you, like late November, December, you're just kind of accepting that you probably are not going to get any like awards at the show. Some companies don't care. Other companies will put their games there because they know it's not going to be a candidate and it's not like that good, so they don't need to risk it. But didn't the deadline used to be at the end of November, start of December? I think in general it's mid-November. I think that's generally been the policy. I think like last year's the 12th or something like that. Maybe we can Google it. Yeah, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order did not get nominated because it released too late. Demon Souls didn't get nominated. Marvel Spider-Man didn't get nominated. Or Miles Morales specifically. Game of the Year eligibility guidelines. Where's like the official? It's November 17th, it looks like. I think they said 17th. Yeah, here are some games we think have a shot. So November 17th is the cutoff. And when does Stalker 2 come out? It got moved, but I don't know when the new move date is. November 20th. So yeah. It's too late. It's too late. Maybe that's intentional. It's probably just because they needed to delay it to get it out. I don't think they're making choices based off of Jeff. But yeah, it's too late to get nominated. So, oh well. Just nobody claim it's like rigged if Stalker comes out and is a 10 out of 10 and they're like, why wasn't it nominated? It's like, it's because it came out too late. Like the guidelines have been there for a year. So can remakes win Game of the Year? Yeah, they can technically win, and they've been nominated. Like I think Resident Evil 4 remake got nominated last year. So they can technically win, but I don't think they ever have, because it's just it's kind of hard to argue that a remake of something made a long time ago deserves a win, you know? Okay. Let's see, did I get... Okay, I think I caught up there. And Deliverian, thank you for that again. Alla Presto, thank you again for the sub. Jorvin, thank you for the sub. Just a Random Bruh, thank you for the sub. Agravito, thank you for the sub. You guys are great. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, everybody. And Pelang, Mortismal said Veilguard was game of the year. What do you think of his opinion? Well, he said he thought it was his game of the year. Cool. Like, I might, like, for me, it's not my game of the year, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. You know, that doesn't mean he's wrong. Do I think it's the best game that has released this year? In my opinion, no. Based on what I've played so far. Maybe that'll change as I play more, but as of right now, no, I don't think it's the best game of the year. But he's accurately describing his perspective, and he really, really likes it. So, cool. You know, I no shade. I'm just like, that's great. But yeah, I think maybe people are hoping that I'm like, he's wrong, he's stupid, he's what, and I'm like, no, that's his opinion, that's his perspective. He's allowed to have it. I don't share that perspective right now, but as of right now, I'm just not feeling it. The Quiet Place game, yeah, I've tried it. Actually, members of the channel get access to an I Tried. So if you're a member of the channel, you can go and watch an I Tried where I played it. Why must you say lukewarm things, Luke? Why aren't you hating on Mortismal for his opinion? Yeah. Were you bought off by Mortismal? Mortismal paid me. Oh, God. It's all part of the conspiracy, man. It's all part of it. Oh, God. Okay. So, everybody, we're going to call it there. I've got to go get this Dragon Age video uploaded and set up. So, I'm going to go do that. Much love. I'll talk to you guys soon. Enjoy one more play of Concord's Dead from the one and only Jacob. I'll see you next time, my friends. Much love. Much love.
Imagine a hero shooter where the hero never showed. Imagine a game with a player base that just refused to grow. A 5v5 hero shooter with gameplay that's just okay. And characters that remind me of Tupperware and white bread. No, I'm not talking about Overwatch. Please stop bringing up Overwatch. This game is not Overwatch. It's actually something else. Imagine a game with a story that no one watches. A game that costs $40 that Sony totally botches. It has all my favorite characters, like Lemmy, Dawn, and Craig. At least, I think that's what their names are. I never bothered to check. Concord like the grave. Your legacy is safe as a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Boop-a-doop-ah, deep-a-doop-da, scoop-a-boop-ah, beep-beep-beep-beep-beep, phlegm. Concord was about as good as accidentally peeing on your own leg. Concord, we're here to lay you to rest. We know you tried your best. You copied so much cool stuff just to turn out lame in the end. I'll never forget my favorite moments, like when Hot Sauce Guy jumped. Remember when he jumped? That was really cool. A rat just ran by on my desk, and even the rat didn't want to play Concord, even though I blessed him with the chance. The $40 he could afford, but the rat just stared on in a trance. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. The cost Costco guys made more money than you. They were just on Jimmy Fallon too. Imagine Lennox being on Jimmy Fallon, because I literally can't. The rat on my desk is eating all my Cheerios and grapes. And also Concord is dead. Concord like the grave. Your legacy is safe as a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Rat-a-tat-a-beep-a-dap, boom. Skim, milk, the rat fleet, doo-dah, doo-dah. A guy said he really liked it, and then a bunch of rats ate his face. That's the sound he made when Concord passed away. I wish things turned out different, but either way I'm getting paid. Concord's dead, Concord's dead, and boy is my face red. When the game came out, everybody overslept. Concord's dead, Concord's dead. Holy crap, Lois, Concord's dead. When the game out, people played everything else instead.